This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
It is game day on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Welcome to WST Daily, gang. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. And as you will notice, we are actually in studio today, which was not the plan, but Mother Nature had other ideas for us and the 2025 Manitoba Open at Breezy Bend. We'll get to that in just a couple of minutes, but of course it is Blue Bomber game day. Bombers and Alouettes tonight in Montreal, 6 p.m. start. We'll hear from Zach Collaros and Payton Logan, who's making his Bomber debut tonight, as well as Mike O'Shea quickly before we head out to Montreal for Moe Khan. It's been a minute since Mo's been on with us, and we'll certainly talk the game tonight before Mo heads down to the stadium. Mo's also the voice of the Montreal Alliance in the CEBL, so I'm looking forward to his thoughts on championship weekend coming up, which of course begins tomorrow night, 5 p.m. the East Semi, and then 7:30 p.m. the Winnipeg Sea Bears take on the Calgary Surge. Winners meeting on Sunday at Canada Life Centre for the CEBL Championship. We'll stay in Montreal going into the following segment. Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press, his boots on the ground in Montreal, getting ready for tonight's game. We'll talk with Jeff about tonight's big one between the Bombers and Als. And then the Fink is back in town. The Moose are getting ready for their series. They just released their promo schedule for the year, which Dan will bring us up to speed on, as well as just how different this team is going to look in all likelihood once Winnipeg Jet training camp is finished. We promised you some fantasy football yesterday, and due to the abbreviated show, we weren't able to make it happen. But Tom Tipple from fantasypoints.com will also join us in the second hour of the program. Got to ask him about a couple of the other future bets that he teased us with last week. And we'll talk some rookies, including Tampa Bay Buccaneer wide receiver Emeka Mbuka, who seems to be rocketing up draft boards as we get ready to pick. So a lot of football, and unfortunately no golf today. We'll touch on that in just a minute. Do want to thank our sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, St. Vital Dental Center, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, and F Apparel, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, the Winnipeg Gold Eyes, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend. We'll get to a why not question today for Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. And, of course, your fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca. Michael Remis, what is going on? What a crazy storm last night, which I think we've been wanting all summer long, but it came at the worst possible time for our friends at Breezy, who are hoping to have the Manitoba Open kickoff today. And that, of course, has been pushed back to tomorrow and the event shortened to 54 holes.
Wow, 54 holes. And yes, Eric Comrie's debut pushed back. And it was crazy last night. I was in my basement watching TV, and I was like, man, it's pretty loud up there. What's going on? And eventually made my way up. I heard all this banging and so much rain fall. And yeah, we've been waiting for this for a while, but that's tough for Breezy Bend. Was hoping to have round one of the Manitoba Open today, but they'll just have it tomorrow. And I'm just about bringing up those picks, Huss, because the course, I mean, some of these fairways totally underwater here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, and folks, I mean, in the chat, fill us in on where you were at and what you experienced last night. I just took it easy last night. I was kind of napping and watching some wrestling and on the computer, and I was going to shut it down early last night around 10:30, 10:45, and then Even if I wanted to, that wasn't in the cards because we got here in Winnipeg, or at least where I'm at, sort of central, a storm unlike anything that we've seen all year long. A ton of rain, a ton of lightning, and some of the craziest lightning and loudest thunder, honestly, I have ever heard in my life. It was a true Winnipeg summer thunderstorm, a boomer, and unfortunately, it came with a ton of rain. Now, I was listening this morning in my car to a little bit of Hal on OB, and he had Harry Stevens on, who was kind of talking, with the farmers, and they said that there was a water station or someone's property in Eli that got 175 millimeters, which is basically 7 inches of rain. It's 15 kilometers away from Breezy. So I don't know what the total was in and around Breezy. Many places in the city, as you can see. This was early this morning when they came out. Basically little mini lakes on the fairways. And it's such a shame because Craig and his ground staff has been working so hard to get this course into absolutely pristine condition for PGA Tour Americas. It already is, but they wanted to play at a certain level. They wanted the rough to be really gnarly. It is. It's a good 5 inches in a lot of places, and you can lose your ball very, very quickly if you don't keep it in the fairway. But they wanted the fairways to be hard, and they wanted the greens to be hard, and they were in great condition. I do really wonder what this storm is going to do to, just the ability to protect the course against the incredible level of these players. But as you saw in those photos, it was ugly this morning. They got a ton, and obviously this is the last worst case scenario to have to cancel the day of the event. But they did that. And Reem, with so many of these players going into the next tournament, a lot of them are driving to the Brainerd area for the next one. Yeah, you can see that lake right there as you come in from earlier today. It was brutal. They don't really have the opportunity of doing a Monday finish like you would do, say, on the PGA Tour or in some others. So sounds like it's going to be 54 holes. They'll get it going tomorrow morning at 7:30. They will play get through the first round, and then presumably just moving. Yeah, exactly. That's
this whole hole is underwater. This is crazy. I've never seen anything like this.
No, especially this year, you knew how dry all courses were. You thought, it can handle some. They got so much. I would bet, based on these pictures, that what they got at Breezy was closer to that 7 inches in Eli than it was in the 3.5 or 4 in a lot of places in the city. But the bottom line is, really feel bad for Corey and Brendan and everybody there that's been working so hard to make this happen. And it'll make for an interesting tournament, and certainly a shorter tournament, as we plan to be back there live tomorrow doing our show as we were planning on doing today. But unfortunately, no golf updates other than hang tight, and hopefully the rain will hold off tonight and they'll be able to get after it tomorrow, 7:30 a.m., with the beginning of the first round in what will now be a 3-round Manitoba Open. It does give us a little more time to focus on this football game tonight, though, Remo, as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 5-4, beginning their second half of the season. They finished this first half off really, and I think an appropriate way if we're sort of looking at the Bombers' first half of the season. They finished off at 5-4. There were some ups, there were some downs. It was a little shaky along the way, but they ended up being on the right side of 500 at 5-4, and they were just on the right side of the scoreboard in that final game at 30-27 with the walk-off win by Sergio Castillo. And now they begin the quest to continue trending upwards into the Labor Day Classic and through the second half of the season with the battle against not a household name, James Morgan and the Montreal Alouettes tonight.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how James Morgan fares in his first career start. He had his first appearance last week with the Alouettes, and a lot of the talk this week in the media availability is Payton Logan making his debut with the Bombers. It was a sign of the offseason to return kicks. Trey Vival's been doing that, and he had that game with the 2 touchdowns, and they've listed on the depth chart Logan and Vival as kick returners. It's funny, we'll play these clips. They asked Mike O'Shea about Payton Logan, and they're not revealing anything. He said he's probably not going to return kicks, might not even be involved in the offense. Who are you going to take? How are you going to stop throwing to Nick Dembski and give one to Payton Logan? So they're holding the cards very tightly, showing the poker face, and I'm really intrigued on how he's going to factor in an offense that needs to be able to score some points here. It's been tough, but Zach Collaros is back. O-line's getting healthy. Dalton Schoen is a week away, you think, from coming off the 6th game. And can Payton Logan add another element to this offense in Montreal tonight?
The guy that is going to be probably have the biggest part in all of this is the quarterback, Zach Collaros. It wasn't a great first half of this season for Zach. I think he'd be the first one to admit it. But here they are with a better record than they had last year. But I would suggest that the competition in the West is far improved this season as opposed to last year. So like last year, they've got a lot of work to do, but they've got a lot of opportunity in front of them. But it is imperative they get this win tonight to get a 2-6 wins heading into the back-to-back against the first place Saskatchewan Roughriders. But nothing is ever easy against the Montreal Alouettes for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Jason Moss, a hell of a head coach. And even, last year they dealt with the loss of their starting quarterback, and what did they do? They found Davis Alexander, who is still out. He is their number 1 guy now. And they've got all the way down the depth chart to James Morgan, but he did get in last week, played the majority of 3 quarters. We'll have practice this week, and I still do think this is going to be a real tough challenge for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Let's hear what Zach Collaros had to say, though. Here's Zach on the last time the Bombers were out in Montreal.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. I really just think back to plays that I wish I'd have, been better on. They're close to the end, but yeah, the wind kind of changing. It got dark. It was weird. And their punter kind of shanked one, and Serge did what Serge does.
Yeah. What's the feeling for you going, oh my goodness, we're going to get another chance at this?
Well, I thought we were going to get the ball back anyway, so I was just trying to rack my brain of, what can we call to get like 15, 20 yards, right, in 2 plays. And we practice that a lot, right, just in practice of how many plays we can get off in that amount of time. I can't remember what the exact time was, but then I saw the punt, and I was just like, oh, wow, we're gonna have opportunities to kick this. So, are we going to center it? What are we doing now, kind of thing.
Yeah. And then Sergio having missed one. It happened last week, too. Missed one, but then he's just back there drilling winners.
I don't remember that he missed one. I can't remember that about the game. I know Sergio with the game on the line is pretty damn good, though. Yeah.
All right, so there's Zach talking about that visit to Montreal last year, and that was the game where he was, if you recall, everyone just said, I think we now know officially that God is a Winnipeg Blue Bomber fan, because it literally did seem as if the Bombers had divine intervention to help them win that game last season.
Yeah, I remember watching that. You thought the Bombers were going to lose, first place in the West slipping away, and all of a sudden the shanked punt into a gust of wind, and the Bombers are in easy field goal range for Sergio Castillo. What an incredible finish. Hopefully it does not come down to that for the Bombers tonight, but fun to look back as we talk about what the beatings that they've experienced in Hamilton when they were a very good football team and going up against the Ticats, and Toronto been a tough place to play. Montreal as well. They've had some interesting finishes.
Zach, listen, they're coming off a win, and they had the great start, 1-4 period, and now getting back into the win column against Ottawa at 5-4. Zach was asked if he kind of believes in momentum week to week.
I think that's like a question that people were kind of like hardline on. I think I believe in momentum. I don't know if week to week. I think there's something to be said of just playing good football and gaining more reps. Just the more and more you're on the field together, the better. you play, I think, because, again, you're just more familiar with each other, whether that's a quarterback and a receiver, 5 offensive linemen playing together, 4 D linemen playing together, because there's a lot that goes into that, too, that people don't realize. Communication on the back end of the secondary, the linebackers, and everybody kind of playing together. I think, sometimes we complain about those short weeks, or in our brains, like, man, this is tough. But I think a lot of times it's like, it's good to get out there and play, get all those reps, right? So I'm a big advocate for always practicing too. Right. Like, I know that we need to be fresh, but I'm also the guy, like, we need reps, So I think there's something to be said about momentum for sure.
All right, so there's Zach Collaros. Remo, if you can get number 4 ready on this one, this is the halfway point. Normally, when in previous years with the schedule starting a little later, the midway point often happened at the Banjo Bowl or at earliest the Labor Day Classic. I mean, now these teams have been playing 9 and 10 games before they get to Labor Day. So Zach was asked if there's been any evaluating on this season so far with 9 games in the books and 9 games to go.
Right now, it just feels like next week. Yeah. And I can't believe how fast it went. Yeah.
At this point of the season, how close or not close do you think this offense is to reaching its potential?
I think we have a lot of ways to go. But like I said a year earlier in the week, I think we've improved, and we just need to continue to believe in what our core tenets are, and it starts with physicality. And executing and paying attention to the details. All those things that sound cliche but are really what makes a great football team and a great offense. And, the rest will come with that.
Now, as Remo mentioned, the one change to the Bomber lineup being on the offensive side of the ball includes Payton Logan suiting up for the first time this season. Here's Zach on getting Payton Logan into the mix and joining the club for the game tonight.
I can remember Payton, playing for Calgary quite a few times in our stadium and staying on the sideline and kind of feeling helpless at times, just when he gets the ball in his hands. So explosive. I was saying this to Jake Thomas on the way over about Payton. Like he asks great questions. He's really loves the game of football. Wants to be great at it, whether he's waggling or in the backfield, returning all those things. So excited for him to get out there. I know what it's like to be injured and not able to be out there and perform. Like, this is our job, right? So he's an explosive guy with the ball in his hand, so excited.
All right, so speaking of Payton Logan, better late than never. He makes his Bomber debut tonight, and he spoke to the media now that he's no longer injured for the first time, and just talked about his injury and what he's been dealing with for the first half of the season.
Thigh, hamstring, what the heck happened?
It was my thigh.
Yeah, gee, that's a long time for a thigh, isn't it?
Yeah, but it come with the sport.
What was it like happening so early, new team, and now you got to wait so long to get back in? How hard is that?
It's not really that hard. Just going through the process, getting back into the mode of things, and just getting back in football mode.
You're a pretty big deal when you signed here. What did you envision for yourself this year?
Just success for the team. I'm a big team person, team player, so when I do play, I just want to make sure the team is doing well.
All right, so there's Payton Logan. Some good stuff from Paul Friesen. He continued, talking about the returning position. And listen, it's always probably a pretty helpless feeling when you see a guy go into a spot that you were supposed to be in and excel. So here's Logan on seeing Trey Vival excel at the returner job that was expected to be his at the start of the year.
Oh, it's been great. He's been explosive. I've loved watching him play. So I can't wait to see him do it in pass this time, though.
What are you hoping for this game? Your first shot. I mean, and what I mean by that, I'm not necessarily thinking expectations on number of plays, but just getting back into that game condition, getting back, feeling those hits.
Personally?
Yeah, personally for this game. Or were you hoping for personally this game?
Just to win. I just want to win. Don't care what I'm doing on the field or if I'm not playing at all. I just want to win.
We knew exactly who you were while you were in Calgary, and you got that returner title to you. But you're a dynamic offensive guy. Like, are you looking forward to showing what you can do on that side of the ball too?
I'm looking forward to doing anything that have me on special teams, offense, kickoff return, anything that have me doing or they want me to do. I'll be ready for it.
I'll say this: you sound like a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. So how has your experience been here in Winnipeg, despite not being able to get on the field yet? Just with your teammates, the culture here, the environment.
I love the culture. I love the team. Favorite thing about it so far is the stadium and my favorite color, blue. And I love the fans. They are tremendous, one of a kind.
All right. Well, Payton Logan certainly looking forward to getting out in front of the home fans in the Banjo Bowl, but I'll have a couple chances to play first. Here's just one more. By the way, good on the hammer. He totally did sound like he had been fully ingrained into the Bombers culture. He was asked if he sort of felt like Trey Vival in some ways has stolen his job and, what'll be on his shoulders when he does get an opportunity.
No, that's not how I'm feeling. If he's playing well, he's playing well. I'm just going to do the job they assigned to me. Yeah.
Do you have a better appreciation for things when I always ask this, but when the game's taken away sometimes, guys, when they come back, they look at it differently?
No, not really. I'm an optimistic guy, so if I'm not playing, I'm trying to find something else to do to help the team. If that's getting reps, watching film for them and giving them tips here and there on what I see from the outside looking in, because I do play football. So that's what I try to do.
No substitute, though, for strapping on the helmet.
Nah, no substitute.
How much you miss it?
More than y'all can imagine.
All right, big smile on Payton Logan. He'll be in tonight. Moe Khan's going to join us in Montreal in just a minute. Before we do that, let's just quickly hear from Osh. Here's the coach of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on where Payton Logan may fit into the Winnipeg Blue Bomber offense.
Well, we'll see if we can work him in. I mean, he's been on the shelf for quite some time now, rehabbing and everything like that. But he's certainly got speed. He's elusive. He's got a thickness to him that makes it hard. And he runs kind of squatty, so it makes him hard to bring down. But I mean, he's been excellent in other places.
You don't dress a guy like that not to at least have him play some plays, right?
Yeah, I mean, but that's always a challenge too, right? You like your guys and you like what you're doing, and so you got to take something away from somebody else. You're gonna take a reception away from Nick Dembski? Probably not, But
good point.
You Brady, it's all you like I said, you like your guys and you like what's going on. You try and work them in.
Yeah, we touched on this briefly yesterday, but will you stick with Trey for all kick returns for now?
Yeah, we'll see. Yep, so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing like a good old yes, we'll see from the coach. But hey, listen, they've got options, and that's a nice thing to have. That certainly was not the case last season. Vival's been awesome, and now a guy they thought was going to be doing that job is available to go. So, and especially with Vival playing and starting a corner right now, they might need to mix Payton Logan in. So we'll see about that. We're going to find out what's up with the home team, which is way down the quarterback depth chart in just a minute. But do want to thank Rolly's Transfer as a great supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Folks, if you have a move coming up, lean on our friends at Rolly's, family owned and operated for over 60 years and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. Head on over to their website at rollys.com. In the top right corner, you'll see request an estimate. Click on that and put in the promo code WST for a special discount for Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're planning on moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rolly's will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they've been famous for now into their 7th decade. For all of your moving needs, make it Rolly's the most trusted name in moving in the province. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollys.com. Our friends at St. Vital Dental Center are all smiles heading into the fall. Consistently and continually get great feedback from our friends in the chat that have gone to see Dr. Terry and his wonderful staff. And listen, if it's been a minute since you've been to the dentist or you're looking for a new spot for you and your family, pop by St. Vital Dental Center. Dr. Terry and his great staff will be waiting for you. They're handling clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to more extensive processes like dental implants. They've got a beautiful new facility, 167 St. Anne's Road. Convenient free parking right behind the building. You can find out more and make an appointment today at stvitaldental.ca. Well, big game day tonight for the Bombers. Hopefully, at the end of this one tonight, there might be a few cheerses around the city for a big Bomber win. Of course, Canadian Club is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And right now, for a limited time at your local Manitoba liquor marts, you can get the new Blue Bomber label Canadian Club bottle while they're around. Of course, the 1858 original with the beautiful drawing of Princess Auto Stadium with the Bomber helmet on it. And I think they're going to potentially be having a signing or two with some of the Blue Bomber players. So while supplies last, get your hands on those right now. Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And keep your eyes out for that Canadian Club pack in time for Labor Day and the long weekend when you're at Manitoba Liquor Marts as well. And just before we bring in Moe Khan, we got to get a big boost tonight. Maybe Payton Logan will be that boost for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that they need returning to the lineup. One thing I can tell you is that Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery have been boosting Manitoban summers all for the last few months, powering our boats, our campers, ATVs, you name it, because Manitoba Battery is the best prices in town on batteries for literally everything. In a few months, we'll be worrying about getting to work with car and truck batteries. Right now, everything you need for the summer is available from Manitoba Battery. And as Donnie says, wake up Winnipeg and stop paying more for less at the big box stores. Best prices in town, best service in town at Manitoba Battery. Shop local. And oh, by the way, busy? No worries. They'll deliver the batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter. All you need to do is order online at manitobabattery.com. Of course, you can see them in store, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive with 2 local locations. Give them a call or order online at manitobabattery.com. All right, let's head out to Montreal. It's been a minute since we've had one of our all-time favorites on. And we got a lot to talk with Moe Khan about because, of course, we got Bombers Als tonight. We also have the CEBL Championship Series, and Moe has just spent the year being the voice of the Morreale Alliance. Moe, what's up, buddy? It's great to have you back on the show.
I am well, Andrew. Is this a bigger return than Jonathan Taves on WST? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
It's right there. It's right there.
It's great to be back with you guys, man. Miss you guys, and it's been a busy summer, and we've got the big Bomber Alouette game tonight in Montreal.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, I do want to hit the CEBL with you, but let's start off with this football game tonight. A big game for both teams. I mean, listen, Montreal is in the East, and they're not quite being pressed the way Winnipeg is with the upstart seasons of Saskatchewan and Calgary and BC and even recently Edmonton. But what was a pretty darn good start and a really solid team has been absolutely decimated by injuries at the quarterback position. And they're now 3 down, going to number 4 on the depth chart, James Morgan. I mean, what's it been like around the Alouettes this week as they look to throw out once again another new quarterback for his first CFL start?
Yeah, they might be at Matt Nichols territory by the time they hit the third quarter of tonight's game with the Bombers. Look, right now the Owls are hemorrhaging guys with their body count. I mean, they've lost a lot of guys, not only beyond quarterback, but Marc-Antoine Dequoy has been lost for a period of time. Phil Pot's been gone for a while. Austin Mack's been gone for a while. So you get the symmetry of what's going on with this team right now. They are banged up, bruised up, and this, given the fact that they're in the East right now, Andrew, has been their saving grace because in all likelihood they'll be the 2 seed. I don't see Toronto or Ottawa catching up to them. In all likelihood, they'll play the crossover, whether it's BC or maybe Calgary, even Winnipeg for that matter, by the time we hit early November. But for this team right now, they just want to hold serve until perhaps Davis Alexander comes back. Now, when will that be? No one knows. It probably won't be until after Labor Day, if earliest possible scenario for them, because they have the bye week next week and they have the Ticats in 2 weeks from now, which could very well determine who wins the division going towards the final 6-7 weeks of the regular season. So really right now, Andrew, they want to stay above water and hope to have a strong defensive effort that can convert for points and alleviate the stress on the offense, because right now they're running on fumes with what they have on the roster as we speak.
Just let's stay on quarterback for a minute. And I will say, I mean, for anyone, I can't believe, I'm just looking at CoolBet. It was 4.5 for the Bombers. It's 6.5 now. Montreal's always been a really tough place for Winnipeg to play. Jason Moss, a hell of a coach. They do have a really solid defense, although the Dequoy injury is pretty significant. It just seems like people are assuming, well, a team's in their 4th string quarterback, so they can't win. Mm-hmm. But he got to play last week, didn't look out of place, I thought, and now has at least a couple practices to get in. What are you hearing about Morgan, and what has Jason Moss had to say about another new face coming in to lead the offense?
Well, Morgan's been loitering around with the team for the last couple of years. Been on PR, one game injury reserve here and there this season, even last year for this team. Has NFL experience, with his time with multiple teams, the NFL, from the Jets and Packers in between that. But I think for James Morgan, what he has to do is keep it simple, guys. I mean, look, you're talking about this Bomber defense that has been ferocious, but also vulnerable at times this year. So he's got to pick his points, pick his moment, a big part, to see if he can exploit the deep ball if it's going to work their way. But remember, Montreal has not been a deep ball team that much this year because they don't have those type of burners on the wideout positions. And for them as well, for Montreal, they have no running game. And that's key, guys. I mean, people don't realize CFL is a passing league, yes, but you need to run the ball. And they have not been able to do that efficiently speaking here this season. And it's been cost them dearly because teams have loaded up the box and has challenged, whether it is Macbeth or whether there is Morgan now or Caleb Evans, even Davis Alexander when he was still healthy, to throw the football. And if the Owls can't establish a running game against the Bombers tonight, this could be another lean game. And you talk about the total points in this matchup and the over-under, it might be a real lean for the Alouettes to even get to 25, if not 30 points if they're lucky enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I was just kicking this around with Dusty on EST on our Lock Shop program, and I think if anything, I'm kind of leaning the under. I mean, I think the Bombers can find a way to win this game. I certainly am not laying the points on the road just based on history and, where the Bombers are right now. But I do think that this could be a very tight, lower scoring game, Mo, and that is going to put a lot of pressure not just on Morgan, but Zach Collaros as well to take care of the football, because when you're looking at games like that, it really can be one mistake, especially a turnover, that can literally be the difference between winning and losing or giving yourself that chance to win late in the game.
Or if the Bombers give the Owls a 17-point lead, and that's where they have them, right? But, you're right. I think in this scenario right now, and you made a great point before, Andrew, Winnipeg has not played well in Montreal. Remember last year, the wind aided them to the victory.
Listen, the Montreal miracle. We spoke about that early on. We heard Zach Collaros talk about it, Mo. I mean, that was the moment where you just turned on, you opened Twitter afterwards, like, well, it's clear now we know what's happening. God is a Bombers fan, because that was divine intervention last season.
Until they played the Argos in the Grey Cup, and then he wasn't. But anyway, the point is that you're right. The Bombers have not fared well in Montreal of late. They've always played them close. And I think what has to happen for Collaros, he needs a clean pocket. You talk about that front four for Montreal, albeit banged up. You look at the fact that they have some pass rushers that can get to the quarterback. And I think for Montreal, for Noel Thorpe, he's got to be patient with his defense. And for Winnipeg, it's going to be take what's given to you and hope to see this team wear out this Montreal defense, because there's one weak link for this Alouette team here, Andrew, these last 4 or 5 weeks. It's been a lot of 2-and-outs, and the Owls defense fatigues in the third and fourth quarters, and that's where they've been smashed to oblivion by the Alouettes and the Rough Riders and points in between that. So I think for this running game for Winnipeg, very important for them, but also I think for Winnipeg as a whole has to be patient and hopefully have this Alouette team, this fatigue, and have very, I guess, snooze fest moments here in the third and fourth quarter where they can't keep up with the Joneses if it's a close game.
How do you think Jason Moss is game planning for this one? What will they expect Morgan to do? How will they put him in the best chance to win a football game tonight against Winnipeg?
Well, it's a good point. It's a great question, because I think what they have to do is get the ball to whether if Sean Thomas Earlton does play. We're not too sure if he is or not. If he is involved, that's key for this team here. But also, you talk about Speaker. You talk about those type of receivers that are sure-handed pass catchers. And remember, when you talk about the fourth-string quarterback, guys, in general, they don't really have much of a rapport with live practice snaps with the number one team or number two team, for that matter. So it's a question of how much time do they spend after practice working on the route running, working on the technique, working on the angles of his delivery of the football and stuff to get accustomed to what he's going to do in the football field. And I think right now for the Owls, for what they've built up so far, a guy like Charleston Rambo has to be an X factor for them. If he's not, it could be a very long day for the Alouettes against this Bomber defense.
I guess they played last Saturday.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround with the Thursday game. I mean, as much as it's a benefit that the guy at least can have first team offense reps, I don't imagine they had much time to practice in between these two games.
No, the schedule makers did no favors for them. Before they headed to BC, they had one practice before BC. And they played Saturday, so they got back early Sunday morning in Montreal. You play a Thursday game. Winnipeg's had pretty much a week off from their last game that they had. And I think for the Owls right now, it's very minimal playing time or practice time that they've had. And given that right now this team is banged up, they're just trying to maintain the sanity of being healthy enough to go into the bye week. Because, again, after this bye week during Labor Day weekend, guys, they got the Ticats. And if they lose that game to Hamilton, I don't think they're going to have any chance to win the East Division this season, guys.
Moe Khan's with us. Defensively, this has been right now, this is the time where you really do have to lean on your defense. And you mentioned they've sort of been left hung out to dry, a lot of 2-and-outs, not a lot of time of possession. The Montreal defense, though, knows this Winnipeg Blue Bombers offense real well. How impactful does the defense have to be if this game is going to be winnable for Montreal in the fourth quarter?
Well, I think Tyrese Beverette is key. I know Darnell Sankey is the middle linebacker and the heartbeat of this defense, but Beverette has to be the guy that has to make plays for this team. He's got to be on point, understanding the schemes, the formations that they're going to run by Winnipeg. And I think for Collaros, again, he's not the same Zach Collaros from 5 years ago. You guys know that very well, watching him firsthand. But they can get to him and get him off his access point on the football field and make him uncomfortable. It gives him a chance. It really does. But again, this bomb team has a lot less question marks in terms of where they are right now compared to the Alouettes. Because, guys, back in mid-July, I was anointing the Alouettes, put them in Winnipeg for Grey Cup Sunday. We'll see them there, right? They were 3-0, running and gunning, and the East was falling behind. And after that loss to Hamilton down in Steeltown, things have not been the same for this team. They've been banged up. They've not had the same rapport and the same confidence that they once had. And that's the one thing the Owls have done so well under Jason Moss, Andrew, these last 2 years. The confidence, the bravado, the arrogance on the football field has been front and center. But right now, they're just a wounded team. And I think for this defense, they've been the backbone to their success. If they cannot play up to the standards that they've envisioned for themselves the last couple of years and for tonight's game, I'm not saying it's a blowout, but it definitely won't be a hard win for Winnipeg if they do end up winning tonight.
Mo, what's the weather like? Is it windy today in Montreal?
No, surprisingly, Andrew, we've had like 45-degree weather, like temperatures, right? Field level the last few weeks, for the last few home games for Montreal. But surprisingly enough, the weather will be comfortable tonight. I think it's going to be about 23-24 kickoff, and it'll drop to 20-21 by the time we hit the fourth quarter tonight. So the weather will be comfortable enough for those who are curious to know. No winds, but I will say this about Molson Stadium, guys. There's two levels of winds. There's field level wind and there's the third deck level of wind, right? And that definitely plays an impact when it comes to the punting situation and even the field goal situation as well. So if the winds are swirling tonight, it could definitely play into that consideration with O'Shea being the special teams background, right? With his background coaching to be, hey, you know what? We'll punt the ball away. And if we miss the field goal, hopefully we'll cover it this time and not have a return for a missed field goal for a touchdown.
Yeah, trust me, we spent plenty of time talking about some of the decisions that were made at the end of that game. But, never a dull moment around the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in 2025. That is for sure. Should be a fun game tonight. Really looking forward to doing it. And I know you're going to be heading down to the stadium after we finish talking today. Mo, what do you make of the CFL Championship weekend?
The CEBL weekend.
Oh, yeah, sorry. What did I call it?
Well, you got the Grey Cup, right, in like 4 months, so it makes sense.
We'll have that championship weekends a little later on. CEBL, we got the pretty wild that Vancouver, 19-5 on the season, but 0-3 against Calgary, and they finished 0-4 against Calgary, who comes in, you would think, is the number one seed, 17-7 on the year. And I mean, the Seabears had sort of stumbled into the playoffs, 11-13, and yet the Seabears have actually beaten all three teams that are coming to Winnipeg this week.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about Calgary. Speaking to Mitch Peacock, who's the play-by-play voice for the Surge, he said, hey, their turning point was actually when they played Montreal during Stampede Week in Calgary, when they were down by 15, came out in the second half, and they were guns a-blazing, and they just shot the lights out against Montreal and haven't looked back. And seeing them firsthand when they played here a few weeks ago, I told my colleague Dwight Walton, I said, Dwight, this is a title team here. They can win it all. And Dwight did not disagree. Said, I absolutely agree with you on that front and how it is. And I'm not surprised they beat Vancouver. I think Vancouver was stumbling in, coming into the final weeks of the season, weren't playing their best basketball, whereas Calgary has been playing their best basketball. And I think every team has question marks beyond Calgary. I think The defending champion, River Lions, they're wheezing in, losing 5 in a row. Scarborough's been up and down this year, been inconsistent, so we're curious to see how they'll be in Winnipeg. I think for your hometown Seabears, the question is, does Mike Taylor have the right formula in place for bodies available to him? Because speaking to him back in July, he said, look, we're allowing guys to go to G League or Summer League, a big part in doing national events, the whole 9 here. But we said when you come back, you got to lock in. And I think now for them going towards tomorrow and hopefully Sunday for the Seabear fans, does he have the right formula in place to maybe pull off the win over Calgary and perhaps win a CEBL title in the hometown city?
Yeah, I mean, listen, were they one of the better teams in the league all season long? No. But I kind of liken this format, Mo, to the Memorial Cup.
Yeah.
And, we've seen lots of teams bounced out in their own league in the first round and have to wait not a week and a half like the Seabears have waited, like literally a month and a half.
Sure.
And then finally get out and, win the entire thing. And basketball home court can be so impactful. We're going to have a great crowd here on Friday for the Seabears, and I would imagine Sunday as well.
Yeah.
How much of a boost do you think can, a 5-digit crowd be behind a home team that will be kind of playing with house money against a team that everyone expects to be the best?
You're right. It is house money for the Seabears. I think with what they've built up so far this season, I think Winnipeg can definitely beat them. I think in a one-game scenario like it is tomorrow with Mike Taylor, he's probably one of the better coaches when it comes to scheming in the X's and O's department. And I won't take away anything from Kilo Canales, the head coach for Calgary, because I think he's a wonderful coach himself. But remember, this is a Surge team that went into a hostile territory in Vancouver with about 6,000 screaming fans and took out the Bandits with that controversial ending to that game. So they won't be afraid because, remember, a lot of these guys have played in NCAA Power 5, Power 4 arenas where they had 20,000 plus. But for this weekend here for Winnipeg and for the CEBL, it's a massive viewership number here because all those new viewers are going to see Winnipeg and how they're doing this whole event here and say, wow, this is a real pro league. And remember, Andrew, this is probably the likelihood of the last time of a host team having this format in place. They're probably going to go to more of a traditional playoff look in the coming years. But I think for Winnipeg, they're going to do a bang-up job with this event. I've already seen highlights of what's going on right now. And look, I'll give Winnipeg a real puncher's chance to beat Calgary on Friday. But again, Calgary is the hottest team and the one that has the least amount of questions coming into this tournament.
We sort of focus here in the Seabears and some of the Western markets, which seemingly are improving. I mean, you are calling games, you're talking to people around the league all year long, Mo. Just thoughts on the momentum that the CEBL has coming into their championship weekend here in Winnipeg and moving on into next season. It really does seem like there's some really good things happening, and they're building it in a responsible way, step by step in markets around the country.
Yeah, they're very meticulous in how they're approaching new markets. I mean, look, Winnipeg has been a fabulous market, probably the epitome of what every CEBL team wants to be with attendance, fan interest, arena, amenities, the whole nine. And I think now for them moving forward here with the TSN TV option as well that they've had for the last couple of years has been wonderful for them for new eyeballs. I think now what they have to do is just kind of iron out the details with ownership in Ottawa because they're league owned, and Saskatchewan, what's going to happen with them and moving forward here with their ownership positioning as well. And look, I think Montreal is stable. Scarborough is very stable with the OVO group owning that team. Brampton just got sold to the Asper family, who you know very well in the Winnipeg area. I think every team has stability now, and for Mike Morreale, that's what he wanted, is stability. And now moving forward here, the question that will come up in the next maybe 2, if not 3 years, do they look at expansion, whether it's Victoria, whether it's out on the east coast of Halifax, maybe another team in southern Ontario, or even have a team, nearby in other parts of Canada, Western Canada for that matter. So I think there is going to be that debate in the next couple of years, but I think they'll take their time and make sure that they're going to go to the right markets that will thrive and be sustainable for the next, who knows how many years, 10, 20 years, for however long this league lasts.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm buying the CEBL, as a stock moving up, and maybe it's because of what I've seen it be so successful here in Winnipeg. But you just look at, the demographics of the country. This is a real growth opportunity, I think, for sport in general. There's so many people that play basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems to be perfectly situated at a time of the year where people are looking for things to do, and the entertainment's been great. I mean, the bottom line is the product is really, really good. And when you have organizations like Winnipeg that are putting the show on that they do,
absolutely.
As I say, I think the sky's the limit for the CEBL. Moe Khan is with us. We're talking a little Bombers, Als, and of course CEBL Championship weekend. Mo, I can't have you on the show though without asking you about the vibe around Habsland right now. I mean, has the parade been plotted out for June of 2026 right now? What are the expectations? What's the pressure on this team? I mean, is this the year? Like, listen, they've gone through the rebuild. They've got a pretty talented young team. Is it time for the Habs to move in, barge themselves into the playoffs in the East, and reclaim a position of prominence in the National Hockey League?
Well, Andrew, if the Bombers decide to stay around town, tomorrow morning is the Friday morning Stanley Cup parade in the Montreal region for this team here. Look, the expectations for this team is at all-time high this year. It is unbelievable. When Demidov came onto the ice late season and had that run of success, many people thought that was the moment right there, that they are now for real. And you bring in Dobson as a top-line defenseman for this team as well. The only question mark that might come up is goaltending, right? Do you trust Montembeault to be that guy, and also finding a second-line center? Those are the two keys right now going towards training camp. And the thing is, that's been different this year, Andrew, in this offseason. A lot of the guys have been spending more time in Montreal practicing in Brossard, where the rink is for the team. And that's where Nick Suzuki has really told the guys, look, let's spend the time together bonding, working on our stuff in August. So come September, we're ready to roll. And I think there's no doubt that expectations will be higher for this team and for Martin St. Louis to produce, right? I mean, he got the first step to get them in the playoffs. They were outclassed by the Capitals in 5, but now the honeymoon's over. The real talk is now here. Can this team become a 2-round team? Because in this division, with Florida being the 2-time champions, Tampa will still be relevant. Toronto still in that conversation. Boston should be improved. Detroit should be improved. Buffalo will be a yo-yo team as usual. And Ottawa being a playoff team, it's not going to be easy for them. It will not be easy for them to get out of this division. And again, when you look at the wildcard spot this past year, you'd expect this to be a lot more closer this time around, with the Rangers and Flyers and others becoming better than what they were last season. So yes, expectations are higher for Montreal. Do I expect them to be in that playoff race? Absolutely. But also the key for them last year, Andrew, that was not a factor, was that they were relatively healthy. If they stay healthy, they'll be okay going into this season. But again, second-line center and Montembeault will be the keys going into this year, whether or not they can take that next step in their development.
It really did seem like the playoff berth, and albeit a short stop in the playoffs, was sort of ahead of schedule. But
Agreed.
Once you get there, that sort of seems to be the baseline of expectations. And now that you're going to have Demidov for a full season, and you're starting off with the healthy group, the offseason moves that they've made. I mean, listen, do I think they're going to be one of the top 4 teams in the East next year? Probably not. But I would say the conversations around the Habs are far more talking about a playoff spot being a minimum, and moving themselves to that next level of truly kind of contending and pushing those teams at the top of the division.
Agreed. And remember, they swept the Panthers in the regular season last year, 4 straight, right? So they have a belief that they can play the big hitters. And now we'll see, because, Demidov is going to come in, and people think he's the next Pavel Bure, that type of player, Kucherov level of point production here. But he needs to immerse himself slowly but surely. And he spent time in Montreal, guys. He didn't go back to Russia. He stayed in Montreal to learn the culture, to play with his teammates as well, and get ready for this season. But I think now for Nick Suzuki, right, people think he's the next top-end center in this league, which he is. I think it was number 10 in the rankings that came out this past week. Can he get this team to buy in even more? And I think now they're no longer that underdog team, guys, and I think move towards their first game of the year. There's going to be a big target on them. And now they have to really step up to the plate and ask themselves, are we a real contender to be a playoff team and perhaps make inroads? And for Kent Hughes, he's been meticulous with his trading cards here. Maybe they go all in because of how many cheap rookie contracts that they have. But remember, they got to re-sign Lane Hudson, and Demidov will be a free agent in about 18 months from now. So they have to really cash in now on these cheap deals before they get expensive in the next 24 months.
Hey, one more just quickly before we go. Speaking of the Habs, I mean, Demidov's the toast of the town. How much pressure is on Patrick Laine coming into a contract year? Where does he fit in? And What is that? What is the Habs fan base feeling about Laine, who we all know what he's capable of at the height of his powers? It just hasn't been around enough and not consistent enough.
When he got hurt last year against Toronto in preseason, they were devastated. Then he came back, he had that run of goals, and then they realized he can't defend, and all he does is a specialist on the power play, right? So if he can be that for them, and get 20, 25, maybe 30 goals, that's a home run for them. But I think right now for Laine, he knows what's at stake for him, right? Another big payday potentially. If he comes up big, scoring 30-plus goals for this team, I think they become a 2-round team. And who knows after that, maybe they have a moment of surge where they become a 3rd-round team and maybe, just maybe, another cup run appearance like they had in 2021.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people in the chat, big fans of Laine still around here and hoping good things for him. But this is a very, very big year for him personally. And, of course, for Les Canadiens. Mo, so good to have you back on the program. I know you will be paying attention to the CEBL Championship weekend this week.
Absolutely.
And, of course, this game tonight, it has been too long. We got lots of football to talk about as we get on the other side of Labor Day. So let's do this again soon. Have a great one tonight, and safe travels to the stadium for what always is a memorable game between the Montreal Alouettes and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Wouldn't expect anything less than that tonight. And thanks again for having me on, and look forward to talking to you again down the road, Andrew.
Appreciate you, pal. There's our bud Moe Khan in Montreal. Follow him on X at Moe Khan 19. All right, we're going to stay in Montreal. Hammer's lined up. He'll join us in just a minute. Great to see our friends at Princess Auto out at Breezy Bend yesterday for the Pro-Am. Princess Auto, of course, supporting so many things in Winnipeg, like the Blue Bombers in Princess Auto Stadium and the Manitoba Open, and, of course, Winnipeg Sports Talk. Princess Auto, headquartered and founded right here in Winnipeg, is where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So pop by and see him, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon, or shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Huge cheers to our friends over at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, who just this week were finally able to welcome guests back to camp. I was just checking the Insta, already pulling. It's a bad week to be a walleye on the Aikens Lake, I'll tell you that. I've got some nice masters come out, and most of all, just an incredible vibe at the camp now that everyone's back after the fire scares of the summer. If you're thinking about maybe getting out to a world-class fishing lodge where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, make plans for next season. But if you want to go this year, they still do have some openings before the middle of September. And if you tell them the Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you, they'll knock 10% off your bill. So go to aikenslake.com for more information on rates, availability, and make sure to check out at Aikens Lake on all your social channels for more on what the Aikens experience is all about. And hey, shout out to our friends at F Apparel. Kind of finishing up wedding season, but of course fall and winter just around the corner, as much as we don't want to admit it. Guys, if you need to up your menswear game heading into the new season, head on down to F Apparel. The best in custom suits starting at just $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of men's accessories around. If you are getting married or in a wedding party in the future, make sure to talk to the fellas at F about a special discount when you and the boys get your suits in the wedding party for the big day at F Apparel. Find out more online and make an appointment to pop in for a fitting at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, back to Montreal we go. My tag team partner on CFL 110, a very busy Jeff Hamilton this week, moonlighting, talking to Dusty on the Nielsen Show, paper plates. It seems like maybe the most requested guest in the Canadian Football League. Jeff Hamilton joins us now. What's going on? How are you?
Yeah, Huss, it's been a busy one for me. I have been talking a lot about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, a lot about Mike O'Shea and his decision-making, whether that be CFL 110 or some of the other shows you mentioned, because it's been a question that's been circulating, if you will, all season long. Like, what are the Bombers, right? We've hit the midway mark of the season, and I think they're exactly what their record tells you. A team that can't seem to get things together. You do it one week, can't do it the next, and that's evident by the fact that this team hasn't strung together consecutive victories since June when they opened the season 3-0. So that's their opportunity here tonight against Montreal, is to get back into a rhythm, try to build some momentum, and get some of those good feelings in the building for more than just 1 week. And I think they have a really good opportunity here at Montreal as you've been talking about on your show, and we've been discussing over at the Winnipeg Free Press, feels like a must-win here for Winnipeg, even though it's far from it.
Yeah, this is a gotta have it one for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I will plug CFL 110 again. If you haven't checked it out, it is on the WST YouTube channel. Real fun show this week, breaking down a wild week last week in the Canadian Football League, hitting the big topics, including the Argos 2026 schedule, and of course all of our picks for tonight's game. It's kind of funny. I'm just pulling Coolbet up here. I mean, it went from 4.5 when we did the show. It's now up to 6.5. I still think that regardless of what the point spread says, Jeff, history in Montreal and the unpredictability of both of these teams tell me that this could be another very, very close game. And, for Winnipeg, they don't care if they win by margin or whether they win. They need to get to 6-4 before that trip out to Regina next week.
Haas, covering this league for 10 years now, to expect the unexpected. And for some reason, the unexpected seems to happen in places like Toronto, places like Montreal, particularly the East, over here in Ontario and Quebec. The Bombers just don't seem to, I don't want to say don't seem to get the job done, because I think if you looked at the statistics over the years, they're certainly beating these teams more than they're losing. But it almost feels like these type of games where the Bombers have to win or are in a prime position to win, they always seem to struggle. And so you look at the spread, even with this growing from 3.5 to 6.5, that's obviously indicative of the fact that they're playing a fourth-string quarterback over in Montreal, whereas you have a future Hall of Famer in Zach Collaros there. But I think this game is a lot more than just get the 2 points. Of course, that's the primary goal here. That's looking at 6-4 is a lot better than 5-5. You can separate yourself a little bit, or at least continue to separate yourself from the BC Lions. And the other thing too, Huss, and we talked about this on CFL 110, is that the Bombers win this game and the Stamps lose against the best team in the league on Saturday in the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and they're even. Obviously Calgary still has the edge there as they have the season series 3-0, but they're even. So all this talk about how great Calgary has been this season and how crappy the Bombers have, well, they're not that far off from that team. So there's a lot of room. I think if anything, if you were to look into the second half as a Bomber fan, I think you have to look at it as clearly this is not the team's all, right? Or you're hoping this isn't the team's all, that there's going to be better days ahead. And whether that's the return of Dalton Schoen, which could be as early as next week, as whether that's the return of or the debut of Payton Logan this week, I think there is some help coming, right? I mean, this team also signed earlier in the week DeMario Houston, so we'll see what happens with that situation and where when he factors into the lineup. But I do think that you can certainly see some better play from the offense. You can certainly see some better play from the defense. But I think it's, to me, this game, and it's going to be a true test because that front is a really good front for Montreal. I think this needs to be a game for the O-line. Like, I think this needs to be a coming out party for the offensive line. They need to bully this team. They need to get that run game going. Brady Oliveira has eclipsed 80 rushing yards just once this season, and he only has one touchdown, and that touchdown came last week against Ottawa. So I do think they need to get that engine revving and, again, get back to that mentality where they can, and they've done the first part. They've been able to get up and create a lead over these last couple games. It's just instead of shoving it down other teams' throats in that final quarter, they're finding ways to lose their leads and put themselves in vulnerable positions. So to me, it all starts with this O-line. I don't think you're going to get it week in and week out, but I do think that it starts this week and having one of those games that can, cut off some of this narrative that this team isn't ready to compete with the best in the West.
Yeah. You haven't been on the beat weekly. You have been this week, but you've been doing the Blue Bombers for pretty much the entire O'Shea era.
Yeah.
I'm interested in your perspective on Mike this week. Like, I don't want to say he was necessarily combative. I mean, he has his Mike O'Shea style, but I mean, you've been in enough of these press conferences. What have you taken away from O'Shea this week coming out of that win, which was a win, but more so maybe than any recent win by the Bombers? Well, frankly, I'll include the Toronto win. Their last two wins have been kind of ones that maybe left more questions than answers coming out of them. Where's O'Shea right now as this team begins the second half of the season?
Yeah, it was an interesting post-game press conference, and it's the only home game I haven't attended and haven't been in that post-game press conference for the head coach. And so listening back and looking back at it, it's both Mike. It is both Mike O'Shea to a T, and at the same time, somewhat uncharacteristic in the sense that I think he's thinking those things when we're asking these questions or whatever. He just rarely ever says them, and I regret not being. Well, I don't regret going to Hecla for the weekend with my boys or whatever, but I do regret not being in that press conference because I would have pushed back. I mean, well, it's very similar when, in other situations where it's been like, okay, like you've had a lot of great press for a long time here. And for some reason this decision making, which usually seems like once a year, there's a massive head scratcher for Mike O'Shea, is now back-to-back weeks. Right. And I think he's not one who appreciates somebody questioning his calls, because he gets that confidence, not from arrogance. He gets that confidence because Mike puts so much work into all this, right? Like, he plays out these situations in games. He studies them. There is no detail too small for Mike O'Shea. So when he's making these decisions, he's making them with all the data points and informations and conversations he's had in the past. And so he does believe it's the best situation for the team. So he's not going to come out after a game and say, well, I shouldn't have put the ball into Sergio Castillo's hands, I guess foot technically, because this is a guy who I believe was going to hit it. Like, Mike O'Shea believed that Sergio Castillo would go out there, nail that 57-yarder. They wouldn't be talking about this afterwards, and they'd be sailing to a victory. The problem is, it's just like, hindsight is 20/20, but in some of these decisions, Huss, you can look back, and even if you did make these plays, you could still go back and ask, why did you do that, right? For instance, whether it was that 57-yard field goal, I think it's a fair question to ask. That, did you think it was a risk? He would have said, absolutely not. Sergio Castillo is the best kicker in the game, right? Now, instead, it's, why do you focus on the negative? Like, we won the game. You can write that kind of stuff, right? But even if you go a week earlier into the Toronto game, like, even if Chris Strevler scores a touchdown, passing touchdown, it's not going to be, it's going to be questioned afterwards why you would do that play. Like, didn't that seem risky? And of course, the answer would be much different. He trusts his quarterback. Now he's got to answer questions that are like, yeah, I guess I probably shouldn't do that, or it didn't work out the way I envisioned. Why is that? And I think that's the thing that Mike's thinking. Mike's thinking, why didn't it work out? And he hasn't gone through the tape, and he hasn't dissected it in a way that he wants to. So I think there's some frustration there as well. The other thing too about Mike is, you can tell he's got about 150 things swirling in his brain, and the least interested he is talking to media. It's not that it's not a disrespectful thing. It just doesn't lead to winning or improving his team. So he kind of, he's focused on other things, and sometimes that can steer him in different directions. But I've said this lots about Mike before. I mean, he obviously is incredibly stubborn in some situations, but he's also an incredibly talented coach and a dedicated coach, right? This is a guy who puts his, blood, sweat, and tears, if you will, into his craft. He's there early in the morning. He's there at the end of the night. He's trying to win and find small areas of advantages that he can expose week in and week out. So I think it's very tough for him to be in a room of people who don't do that, who haven't been in those rooms, who haven't been in those conversations, asking him, why didn't this work, right? He believes everything's going to work. And I think he is genuinely shocked us when those things don't go down the way he envisions them.
Jeff Hamilton with us from the Winnipeg Free Press. I found it, and we haven't heard from the coordinators a lot, but we did hear from Jason Hogan this week. And it was, I mean, maybe it's a young guy, with his first opportunity to be an OC, but I kind of cracked up when he was pressed on, is that his choice? The 2nd and 3, 2nd and 2, whatever you want to call it. And it was very clear that there is a hierarchy that these calls go through. And the bottom line is everyone underneath Mike O'Shea and the Mike O'Shea coaching tree fully all in on faith that the right call is going to be made, or green lit, if you will, by the guy with the shorts on the sideline.
Yeah, I've heard a bit about that. I was the one that was asking Mike Hogan those questions that he didn't seem all that interested in answering. And part of that could be, Huss, is, as you mentioned before, I haven't really been a daily Bomber guy, but I have been a long-term Bomber guy. So when I showed up there asking questions, I wasn't looking, to get to know him early on in a scrum. I wanted to get those questions out. And when you look at some of them, when you look at some of the questions I asked, there was a defensive tone to it, right? Because I do think he's feeling overwhelmed by this situation, like anybody else who was in their first year as an offensive coordinator in the pro league, right? I mean, there is a lot here. There is a lot of voices here. I was curious to know if there was agreement, because we'd heard this lots, right, with Buck Pierce when he was the offensive coordinator. Lots of collaboration with Zach Collaros, lots of collaboration with Brady Oliveira, lots of collaboration with the key leaders on offense, including the offensive line. They all get kind of a say. So while he's kind of standing there and going, yeah, we're all in agreement, especially when I asked him if he's on the same page as Mike O'Shea, and he kind of gave you one of those, like, talking about the president, like you'll never say something ill about the leader here. I then turned it, okay, well, you and Mike are on the same page. That's understandable. Are you, Mike, and the players all on the same page for some of these decision makings? And you could tell there it was a quick snap. Yeah, we are. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not saying it's a complete, and I'm not saying there's a divide in the Winnipeg's locker room, but I do think there's some opinionated people in that locker room. There's been people who have been there for years and years and years, right? They want to see this trend over the last 3 years of getting to the end and losing get bucked, right? So I do think there's opinions in there. Again, I don't think wouldn't call it a divide, and it's in that you have people not wanting to play for each other. This is a family, right? This is a family team. The culture is a family, and families disagree. Families fight. They have different opinions, right? That's just a natural thing. And I think this team's trying to figure it out because nobody's used to this, especially the players. Nobody's used to winning one week, losing the next week, winning the next week, losing the next one after that. This isn't fun football for them. So I think in that respect, that's really what the situation is here, is everyone's trying to figure out a way to get this thing back on track. The other thing too, Huss, is I think that Mike O'Shea, and it reminds me of like 2017, 2018, where the Bombers were on the cusp of being one of the better teams in the West, but couldn't get there. And so they did ballsier things. They were a little bit more unpredictable. And I feel like that's a characteristic of Mike's coaching. And I think that's what you're seeing in some of these play calls, is a little bit of, we need to be a bit ballsier than we have in the past. We're not as good as we have been in the past. So I think that's reflective of some of the decision making too. But overall, it's just, again, it's a weird feeling. That's the way coaches have described it. Players have described it. It's just different. It's been different than all these years. Many of those years, as we know, Huss, in recent years, has been nothing but good times and joy. Even when you have tough times, right? You can dismiss games, and nobody was ever in a bad mood here. I think this is a lot of people. I'm not saying they're all kind of cranky, but they're not in the mood that they have been in previous years. And I think the game's a little bit harder than it has been in previous seasons.
Hammer, as far as the Bomber offense goes, I mean, we didn't get a lot from Osh, and I was never expecting this, to kind of throw his cards down and say, yeah, Payton Logan's going to be running these routes for us, and he's going to be in these packages, and he's going to be out there at this point. But he is on the roster. He's obviously really looking forward to trying to help his team do something after being on the shelf so much. Is there any chance you think that Payton Logan could be impactful in this football game tonight? Or we might see him a couple times, but if he's really going to make a mark with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, it's probably going to be in future games?
You have to forgive me. I didn't watch all of the show prior to me getting on here. I don't know if you played Payton Logan's interview or whatnot, or you caught my comment midway through, where you certainly sound like a Winnipeg Blue Bomber.
Oh, dude, I laughed so hard.
Yeah,
we did play that. I'm like, Hammer nailed that one.
Yeah, it's like, okay, and you saw him coming into the scrum, and he spoke to Darren Cameron before he went. He spoke to Mike O'Shea before he went. He got coached before he kind of came into the scrum. And then he kind of did his own kind of kinder version of Marshawn Lynch, right? Like, it was just, I'm just looking forward to it. I don't think he was comfortable even answering questions about whether he was eager to get back in the lineup. It was just like, he didn't want to say the wrong thing. So, to answer your question though, Huss, I think he could factor in majorly. This is an offense who needs a spark. This is a guy who's versatile. He can run the ball. He can catch it out of the backfield, and he can return the ball. They're not going to be bringing him into the roster to sit him there to do nothing. He is going to be impactful. And I'd argue that looking at Payton Logan's scrum and looking at the way Mike didn't really talk about it tells you everything you need to know. He's probably going to be utilized, and he should be utilized. This team needs all the help they can get on offense, and bring this guy in. He was a guy that was much like Dylan Mitchell was a key offseason acquisition, and now it's time to see what he can offer here. This is a guy who is small in stature, but he's a he's a tree trunk of a human being, and he can go east and west as fast as he can go north and south. So I think a lot of people are eager to see what he can bring to this team, whether that's returning punts or that's factoring in on the offense. I'd almost argue, at least early on in the game, you might see more of him on offense than you will returning, as Trey Vival has taken over that role and done pretty damn well. The thing that's against him, of course, is he's now starting at boundary corner. So as the game goes on, that's going to be a lot to ask from him to play both of those roles. So I think you're going to see more, perhaps maybe Payton Logan later in the game in returning, but you'd have to think he's going to factor into the offense as well, especially given his skill set and the need this team has for a spark in that unit.
Yeah, and you know, all offseason and really throughout last year, we were kind of saying, okay, who's going to be the guy that's going to help juice up this Bomber return game? And they found it in Vival. He's now starting at cornerback, though, and I do wonder if they feel like this is too much. Does the current state of the secondary mean they might, well, now that they've got Logan, just get him out there and do that, because they don't really have somebody like Logan at returner at corner beyond Vival with how thin things are in the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of movement there, but yeah, you don't want to put him in harm's way, right? You're already short. You're already down a couple men in your secondary, so you don't want to put added tax to it. That's the thing is, though, Trey Vival's young, right? So he can still do that. It means returning a couple different punts. Obviously, we know as long as he holds onto the ball, the offense will be going onto the field, not his defense. So it does work out in that way. But I do think that the Bombers, while Vival has certainly done the job and probably deserves to keep that job, I still think you want to see, especially with Payton Logan eager to get out there and show his stuff and prove his value to his new club. You at least want to test them out one or two. I can see them both lining up there, Huss, because now it's choosing who you kick to, right? And I think a lot of teams, have been kicking away from Trey Vival. Now in this situation, they'd have to kick to Payton Logan. So that's a good situation for Winnipeg. But to me, that's one of the most things I'm looking forward to is what this guy can bring. I liked him in Calgary. I thought he was behind a few different running backs, but was really this gadget guy who could do a bunch of stuff. I'm really looking to see how he could maybe factor into the passing game as well. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, we could come out and see very little of him. I'm anticipating to see a bit more than that for sure.
We do. Listen, the defense has been a work in progress, particularly with everything that's happened in the secondary. They get a guy making his first CFL start, albeit he did play last week. Unfortunately for Montreal, we can say, well, he had all the reps with the ones this week. I mean, they played Saturday and they're playing tonight. So this is one of those probably one practice weeks. How do you think Jordan Younger is going to cook things up to try to take advantage of an inexperienced quarterback that didn't look out of place last week when he got thrust into action against BC?
I think they just need to get pressure on him like everybody else, right? I mean, I think the most impressive thing for me with James Morgan last week was the fact he never threw an interception or created a turnover, right? And this is a guy who, while he is a rookie to the CFL, isn't a rookie to pro football. He's obviously bounced around in a handful of NFL camps. He had some time in the USFL. So, he also, you can tell too, Huss, I went back and I listened to some of his interviews. Like, he's a well-composed individual, and I think that's key. It's not necessarily an automatic, just because you can talk off the field doesn't mean you can play on it, but it does help. You can see these natural leadership skills that he has. So I'm intrigued, right? You look at the size as well. I mean, being 6'4", it's a bit better than, being a smaller quarterback when you have Willie Jefferson's wingspan, coming down on you. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do with that. He is missing, of course, his top two receivers still in Tyson Philpott and Austin Mack, which puts a heck of a lot of pressure on Tyler Snead, Cole Speaker, and Charleston Rambo. Three guys who I've said, whether on CFL 110 on your show, Huss, here, is that they don't look as good when those other two guys are out. So how much is James Morgan going to make them look good? We'll have to wait and see. But I think the takeaway in this is, obviously this is a guy who is going to have, be in over his head a little bit here. But maybe that's a good thing. And we've also seen these kind of situations happen before. We've seen these situations happen against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the infamous, if you will, Crum back with Dustin Crum taking over in Ottawa, a couple of years ago. Heck, that might even be last year as far as I remember. But it feels forever ago. That being said, the Bombers need to get on him, and they need to get on him quick. And Willie Jefferson needs to have a big game, and the interior needs to have a big game. So I think if you're Jordan Younger, you want to throw the sink at this guy and force him to make decisions and test his ability to read, go through his reads and whatnot. So I do think that this guy has shown some confidence. I do think he gets a little bit of help, even though to your point, he didn't get a ton of practice with the number one offense. I think sometimes that lack of film can work in your favor. So we'll see here. I'm certainly not building a positive case for Montreal, but as I mentioned off the top of this interview, covering this league for 10 years, the one thing I've learned is to expect the unexpected. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he had a solid game, but Winnipeg cannot drop this one. This one's massive. They need this game. They can't go into a team that is hurting, losers of 3 straight, and lose to a 4th-string quarterback. That's just going to add more questions to this team's doubt and certainly put them back at 5-5, which is, again, not as nearly as good as 6-4.
Well, yeah, and not going to cut it in the West right now with where BC is right now, and obviously what's happening above them with Calgary and Saskatchewan. And listen, I echo everything you said before. And the one thing, I mean, and maybe this is just the Bomber fan in me that remembers these games out in Montreal and a few other spots in the West over recent years, you can't take anything for granted, including a 4th-string quarterback, because, Jeff, it was around this time last year when Davis Alexander, who was an unknown 3rd-string quarterback, was coming in. And by the end of the year, they were moving on from Cody Fajardo because they had found their guy to be their number one next season. And, like, the one thing about Morgan is, you know, you can tell he's got an arm. He's been in NFL. He's been with NFL teams before. He's played at the pro level in some other leagues. I mean, this is another one of these guys that's been waiting for this opportunity. So, you know, you do have to be careful, and you have to respect what they're throwing you, especially with a guy like Jason Moss cooking it all up on the sidelines.
And that might be, you know, the key element here, Huss, is it's Jason Moss-led team, much like if it was a Ryan Dinwiddie-led team, right? As we saw last year in the Grey Cup, Nick Arbuckle turned into an MVP in the most important game of the year. What does Jason Moss have cooking for a Week 12 match against his rival Mike O'Shea and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, right? Like, Mike O'Shea and Jason Moss are two very, very similar individuals in their coaching perspective and their life perspective, and you know they're going to be dialed in and prepared. You know he's going to be spending overtime, going crazy hours on this short week for them. And I think that's probably the ultimate killer here, Huss. I think that would be the X factor in this game. You can't underestimate the challenges that come with being on a short week. And so having the 4th-string quarterback, being on a short week, these are all things that are setting up for a trap game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But if they can wade through that, you know, not shoot themselves in the foot, not have those kind of games that we've seen in the past where they just can't hold on to the ball and they can get down the field and end up losing it. If they can protect the ball and get pressure on James Morgan, I don't think this should be a problem whatsoever. 6.5-point spread, 3.5-point spread, whatever. The Bombers should win this game by at least a touchdown.
The one thing that, I mean, I was just talking with Moe Khan. We heard Zach talk about it before. I don't think we can expect divine intervention for the Blue Bombers like we had last year in this football game between these two teams. Remo and I were talking about it.
Don't rule it out.
Well, listen, I mean, I'll say this. The Bombers, I'm sure, feel like they shouldn't need divine intervention to win this football game. I mean, listen, I think they should feel confident against anyone. That's, you know, they have earned that over the years. And even with some downs so far this season, they know that, you know, they can win these football games. But it has been one game after another of very, very tough outs at Molson Stadium. And, you know, last year was the one where we kind of realized that maybe there was a little more to the Bombers' incredible run that they've had in the West because everything was turning up theirs. Tonight, though, I mean, this is on Zach Collaros to lead this Bombers team, execute, keep it mistake-free, and a defense, as you just laid out, can get to Morgan, don't make things easy for him, and then hopefully take advantage of a guy that doesn't quite have the CFL experience for maybe a turnover or two and then really take control of the football game. The defense is good, though. Dequoi's out, which is significant, but are we due for a big Brady Oliveira game on the ground? I mean, he's had some big games, but it hasn't been the rushing attack like we're used to seeing from Brady. Certainly not consistently, and especially not in the last couple of games.
Yeah, I wrote about that in the paper today with my 5 storylines. I think it's the most important one. They got to get Brady Oliveira going. It's not that Brady hasn't been chipping in. Of course, he's been effective. He's been a go-to guy in the receiving game as well. He has a game with over 100, or I think it was exactly 100 receiving yards, whereas he hasn't eclipsed that number in his rushing game, right? And again, it doesn't go back. This isn't Brady's not. Some of it is not getting the opportunity. Some of it is game management in the sense that the Bombers fall behind and they need to get up and so they need to go to the air. But I think it really does come down to the play of the O-line. Obviously, this group has had some injuries. Stanley Bryant was out for a few games, which threw off the rhythm, put guys in different positions, which obviously affects the footwork and chemistry and all that other stuff. But I think this is the game they need to really, again, flex their muscles and return to that style of football that was so successful in years past. Again, I mean, that's a lot. That's easier said than done, perhaps, but that's kind of the model they've been following until the very end. They need to find, if they find themselves with the lead, whether that be touchdown or more in the fourth quarter, they need to continue to run the ball. Like Brady needs to chew up 65, 70 yards in that fourth quarter, just constantly moving the chains, right? That's when the Bombers are at their best. That's when they're feeling their best. That's when they feel dominant and when they're playing dominant. So if they can get back to that tonight, that will get them feeling better. That will build that momentum I mentioned earlier. And that's what you need going into what will be a really, really, really important back-to-back against their rival Saskatchewan Roughriders after this week.
Hey, again, the 5 storylines up at freepress.com, and another piece, and I'll just give you a bit of love for the write-up on Nick Dembski and the season he's having right now. I said it earlier this week, maybe it was on CFL 110 or maybe it was here, that, you know, for my money, he has clearly been the Bombers' offensive MVP this year. And it dates me knowing that thinking back to doing color commentary on the high school championship when he was running all over everybody for the Oak Park Raiders. But it was crazy to see that he's 32 years old. It certainly doesn't seem that, but he's playing
32 in December.
Playing like he's 23 as opposed to about 32 right now. I mean, just you give a little plug about what you talked about with Dembski.
Yeah, it's his 10th season. Like I even tweeted out when I tweeted the story, I was like, you know, I'm finally back on the beat this week, and I'm tired of people ignoring the season that this guy's having, right? I mean, players don't get better with age in football, and particularly at that position where you always have competition coming up, younger guys coming up. Like, you know, one of the things I thought was really interesting, I don't touch on it too much in the piece, but I found it really interesting talking to players like Jake Thomas and talking to offensive linemen, so people who play in the trenches, is that they don't really, like, you know, those quick twitches, so the quick movements and muscles or whatever, like that is way more, you're asking way more out of receiver doing that than somebody on the line. So like over time, you can kind of push your career, because that's, once that thing goes, that football players tell me, then your career starts to derail. And so you can kind of extend that as a D lineman or an O lineman, but as a receiver, you can't hide from that. You need that. And the way that Nick Dembski's been running routes this year, he is proving to be only better with age. Like, again, like a fine wine, Nick Dembski is. And he's already on pace to crush all his single season career highs in yards, receptions, touchdowns. So, you know, he's done it. He's had to do it this year, right? And it has to do it the last 2 years with Dalton Schoen being sidelined as often as he has. But this is a guy who, you know, especially as a Winnipeg native, right? How can you not love that part of it? That he continues to get better each year, and he continues to, you know, talking to Mike O'Shea, he's focusing hard in on those individual drills. He's still trying to add different tools to his tool belt and improve his game and his impact in games. And certainly over the last few years, while they've been in this winning, and they've had their winning ways, you know, Dembski's been available, right? He's understood that the most important ability is availability. And while that has certainly been the case over the last few years, it wasn't always in his career, right? He always kind of had injuries. And I think that was a result of him maybe not being as dedicated. And this is him admitting it. It's not me saying this for him. You know, maybe wasn't the gym rat he needed to be early on, was more the playmaker, you know, thought maybe, you know, and his athleticism is so through the roof that he could get away with that. Well, as you get older, anyone can attest to, things are much harder. So you have to kind of be more dedicated. And that's certainly been the case for Nick for years now. And it's certainly paying off. So it's great to see it. And, you know, I think his game will go even further once Dalton Schoen gets back in the lineup and is attracting some of that major attention that he's getting right now.
Check it out in the Free Press before kickoff tonight, and make sure you check out CFL 110. Leave us a comment in the comments over on the YouTube channel. Hammer, have a nice night. Don't stay out too late in Montreal, and safe travels back. Thanks for doing this, buddy. Talk to you next week on the program.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Won't have that luxury tonight. I got to jump on the team plane out there, and I'm jumping on the team plane back because of my Air Canada snafu. So I appreciate them helping us out over you know, at the Free Pin. So I won't be taking advantage of those Montreal Montreal Knights, but I did have a good one last night. A nice dinner for sure. So.
Well, I know that you will be a neutral passenger on the plane, but here's hoping that is a very fun and upbeat flight back from Montreal for everybody else on the plane after a Bomber win tonight from where I'm sitting. Have a good one, dude. We'll talk to you next week on CFL 110.
Yeah, no problem. Just don't let them know about the GoPros I set up. We'll talk to you guys later. Take care.
Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press. You can follow him on X at Jeff K. Hamilton. All right, we're going to check in with our pal Dan Fink coming up. And we do have a little bit of fantasy football talk as well before 3 p.m. Just before we bring in the Fink and look ahead to the Moose season, big shout out to our friends, including the OGs, Royal Sports. Big thanks to our friends at Royal Sports for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. You all know that Royal Sports, family owned and operated for over 50 years, is the ultimate sports superstore for Winnipeg fans. Now, everything is gearing up for the hockey season. Tons of Jets gear, lots of new stuff coming in. All the jerseys. If you want to get a Jonathan Taves or a Velarde or a Sandberg, now they've got new deals. Royal Sports has you covered. You want to get Bomber gear in time for the big Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl. Royal Sports has so much, including many exclusives that you won't find anywhere else. And as we all get ready to draft our teams for fantasy football season and look ahead to NFL kickoff in September, Royal Sports has the biggest and best collection of NFL merchandise, so you can gear up with your favorite team while you're still 500 and at 0-0. Pop by Royal Sports. You got to see it for yourself. 750 Pembina Highway. And check them out on Instagram at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops, sale information, and keep your eyes out for another award-winning tent sale coming up right after the Labor Day long weekend. We got Blue Jays action. We got CFL action going on right now this week. And if you're heading out to watch the game, no better place to do that than your local Boston Pizza. Tons of great treats available. New stuff on the summer menu, including those cherry cola beef sliders that I've been enjoying, and all the classics, including those ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, and gourmet pizzas. Whether you're watching the Jays playoff run or the Bombers back in action in the rest of the CFL, Boston Pizza is your number one spot to get together with the gang for the big game. And if you're staying at home, you can always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, just before we continue the show, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, we are back. We're just about to talk a little Moose, and then we've got some fantasy football. But in the meantime, I do just want to quickly throw out our Why Not question of the day for not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Confidence check on you Bomber fans. How are we feeling about this game tonight? Is it going to be a tight one? Do the Bombers win convincingly, covering that 6.5-point spread on CoolBet? Or do you think we're in for a white knuckle ride? Let us know in the chat right now. We'll get to some fan feedback a little bit later on for fansfirst.ca. Let's bring in Dan Fink, voice of the Manitoba Moose, who are getting ready for their season as well. Promo schedule drop today. Fink, what's going on? How's the summer been?
Oh, it's been good. It's been nice and relaxing. Last year was a busy one, so this year I've taken the opposite approach of doing absolutely nothing, and it's been fantastic. I love doing nothing. Just sit around, enjoy the summer, enjoy Winnipeg, and save a little coin along the way.
Yeah, well, listen, I know you're saying that tongue in cheek because there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes as you get ready for a season, including announcing all the fun feature and promotional nights at the Moose games coming up this season, starting with the big home opener. And this usually happens that way. Huge hockey weekend. We got the return of Jonathan Taves and the Jets home opener on Thursday night. And then the next night, it is showtime for Moose season against the Laval Rocket to kick it off.
Yeah, it's nice. Last year we had that real delayed home opener. We were on the road for a little while. I think it was October 26th was our first home game. This time we get in the home opener and then we're gone for a little while. But looking forward to that one. Of course, going to have a picture frame giveaway for the first 3,000 fans through the door. So some nice Moose branded stuff to get on your mantle and get your favorite Moose memories in there. And then it moves on to a jam-packed schedule. I think if folks have been looking, they'll notice there are a couple of gaps still in there that we still need to fill in. So there's still some cool stuff coming, and excited to share more about that in the future. But got some new things coming down the pipe. Epic Fun Day, which I can't go into too much detail on right now, but from any of our experience with Colin Paterson and his work in the game presentation and keeping things, this is his opportunity to let loose and go nuts. So we're really looking forward to that one. Soirée Francophone coming up as well. Chance for us to kind of celebrate our Manitoban Francophone population and community here, which it's kind of cool because it's one of these things that kind of start out as you partner up with folks for a group night, and then it gets a little bigger and a little bigger, and then you realize, oh, we can make a whole night out of this. So we're really excited to go all out with that. That's coming up on December 12th. Should mention that Epic Fun Day is on November 29th. What are some of the other new ones? We got the Winter Carnival this year, kind of trading in the holiday games for the Winter Carnival. So really kind of getting all about embracing those Manitoba winters. So those are a few of kind of the new games coming in, and I think we'll have some new stuff coming in the kind of the second wave. And then we've got some of those mainstays as well, like your Superhero Day on Morreale Day, the Mascot Palooza, which is becoming a quick, fast favorite here over the past couple of seasons. And actually, Colin just started connecting with some of our mascots already, and they're already jumping in and folks trying to get in. So all sorts of chaos on the schedule coming up. Really looking forward to everything.
Can I pass in a suggestion that you can maybe slide this to Colin? Maybe I'll say
I'm a little alarmed, but continue.
For Mascot Day.
Okay.
Can we possibly get my lifelong dream of having all the mascots in? Maybe you hook up with one of the local wrestling places. We need a battle royal. We need a battle royal of local mascots.
Well,
it would truly be the most. You want to go viral? You want people to do it? Mickey Moose taking out the green drop. Maybe a slam on the subway. It would be
Latuke going off the top rope.
Yeah, exactly. Would just be so great.
I'm walking right into sales and marketing after this, so I'll throw it out there.
There's got to be a way we can make this happen at some point. There's the Sunday, November 2nd's Fairy Tale Day. Does that have something to do with basically a dream opportunity to sit in the press box and listen to one of the best in the biz do his thing?
Oh man, if that's somebody's fairy tale, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, I mean, you know what? I think some of these games, it is fun to see where they go. Last year, the whole promo team dressed up as basically the entire cast from Shrek, which was unbelievable. Everybody sold right out for that one. It's a lot of fun. And you know what? Some of these games, whether it's Superhero Day, Fairy Tale Day, Jets have a Halloween night this year. It's these opportunities for the kids, especially to really, one, make use of those Halloween costumes that maybe mom and dad picked up. Or like, when are we ever going to use this again? So that's a great opportunity, but it just gives everybody a chance to show off some of that creativity. I think when everybody can get involved in the theme of the night, that's what really brings some of this stuff together and really kind of adds to everything. So when you see the kids rolling in their Iron Man and Batman costumes, things like that for Superhero Day, or you get kids dressed up like the folks from Frozen and things like that for Fairy Tale Day, it just adds to the day. We can do a lot, but when the fans jump on board with us, it just makes everything so much better and so much more fun. So really looking forward to this year's promo schedule. There's a lot to look forward to. Some of the favorites, we've got our 2 mini bobblehead giveaways on the schedule. We'll see who those are this year. Always exciting to see who's going to be on the list. So there's plenty to come. And you know what? The clock is ticking here, Huss. August 21st, October 10th, not that far away.
Yeah, no, you're not kidding. I was popping in and talking with Emily and Morph last week from the Jets, and having been on that side for many years, those last couple of weeks in August, you get those, it's like the Sunday scaries every day, knowing that the minute you get on the other side of Labor Day, it is go time and there's so much to get done. Hey, just a couple of other things. There are a couple mini bobblehead days that people want to note. Friday, January 2nd against the Abbotsford Canucks, the defending champs. Marley's in on Sunday, March 8th. That's another mini bobblehead day. The day at the Museum, Saturday, February 21st, looks fun. Tons of afternoon games this year.
For a game that started out as somebody making a bad pun in a meeting, Night at the Museum last season turned out so much better than our wildest expectations. I think we had 13, 14 museums on the concourse, and I did a full lap, and it was great. So really looking forward to what year 2 can become, because sometimes, like Mascotpalooza, you don't know what's going to happen, and then you have success with it the first time, and then you see where you can build to it. So getting a chance to bring in folks that with all the museums, it's kind of a weird intersection between sports and the museums. Of course, you have things like Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame, things like that, but branching out wider and putting the spotlight on all the great museums we do have in this city or in wider Manitoba is a lot of fun.
I thank God. I thought it was like a moose museum, and I thought just the whole display was gonna be some of my great headshots.
Moose all over it.
Yeah, and my headshots from like the '98 media guide, the '97 season, and whatnot from back in the day. Listen, obviously, fan appreciation ending up. Got the autism acceptance game again. Follow Your Dreams, which is maybe the biggest game of the season each and every year. Teddy Bear Toss on the 14th, and of course the Project 11 School Day game, which is always a fun one. That's a 10:30 a.m. game, Tuesday, November 25th. Packing all the school kid games in. So
and March 18th. So there's 2 chances to get it in. If you if you're a teacher watching this, then be sure to get your classes signed up for either that November 25th or March 18th date. So those are, if you've never been to one, folks. I can't recommend them enough. Bring earplugs, that's fine, but the energy is something else. Like there's playoff energy and then there's school day game energy. They're 2 different things, but they're both electric.
I find myself at those games spending as much time watching the crowd and the kids having such a great time as I do the game itself, but it certainly will be good. If you go to moosehockey.com, ticket information for the upcoming season, packages, all the information on the promo squad. And one thing I know, Dan, that you're looking forward to is probably a much more competitive Moose team this year. I know Zinger and the guys behind the scenes, you saw the moves that the team made, bringing a guy like DiGiuseppe from Abbotsford who just won the championship. I mean, a number of players coming in, and the goal certainly will be to have the Moose contending, not playing for next year in the last couple months of the season.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting. I mean, with the guys that have come in here over free agency, it's going to make the battle for those depth spots with the Jets just absolutely neck and neck. I think there's some players coming in here who have plenty of NHL experience or have been knocking on the door or have had great AHL success. So there's a lot of depth, especially in that forward group now that the Jets can make use of, and then we'll see how it all shakes down to the Moose. So as you know, Huss, I always hedge my bets a little bit about who's going to be here, who's going to be where, but certainly when you look at that depth that is available, and you have guys like Samuel Fagemo, who has scored 40 plus goals in the American Hockey League in his career. If you can add a guy like that to your lineup, I mean, great. When you can have a goal scorer, especially for a team that last year struggled to score goals, you have guys like that, a pure goal scorer, and you have young guys coming in, and we don't know where things will shake out from camp. But if you have a Colby Barlow in the lineup, then what better guy to learn from than a pure goal scorer like Samuel Fagemo if he's in the lineup? So all these stories will start to become a little more clear in just about a month's time. So we'll see how that all shakes down, but certainly looking forward to this Moose season. I think it could be a lot of fun to see how this team comes together, and really looking forward to it as I repeat myself a little bit there, but we're at that time of year, Huss. It's almost time to drop the puck.
You know what? It can't come. Well, I will say this. I'm more than willing to wait and get a couple more weeks of summer in and do our fantasy drafts, but I'm looking forward to hockey season. There's no doubt about it. I cannot wait to hear you do your thing and have you on the show all throughout the year, filling us in on what's happening with the Manitoba Moose. Say hi to Colin and the rest of the gang is preparing for the season. We'll talk to you soon, Finker, and thanks for doing this as always.
We'll see if we can get that Royal Rumble pushed across the line for
Let's
you,
go.
mascot day there.
Let's go. I'll be happy. I'll ring announce. I'll be a Bobby Heenan character if you need anything. Let's
Absolutely.
just try and do
You'll
it.
be our first call. Hey, single game tickets now on sale, just went up today. So head to moosehockey.com/tickets so you can catch all the promos there. Get yours booked now and get logged in, or check out the memberships for all the very different options that we have this season. moosehockey.com/memberships. Thanks a lot, Huss, for getting me on here today.
Appreciate it as always, dude. There is Daniel Fink, voice of the Manitoba Moose. And hockey season just around the corner. Wow, what a first week, too. Jets home opener, Moose home opener, and then that Saturday game, 12:30 against the Kings on the first Saturday of the year, October 11th. We just talked about all the great Moose promo nights. Maybe the most popular Gold Eyes promo night of the entire year is coming up on Saturday. That, of course, is the Bark at the Park, where the Gold Eyes, their opponents, thousands of fans, and hundreds, if not thousands, of Winnipeg's favorite pups are going to be in attendance. If you love dogs and you love baseball, Saturday night, the ballpark is the place to be. Find out more on ticket details and all the rules and regulations about bringing dogs to the park for the 6 p.m. Saturday game. Goldeyes.com right now. The Bark at the Park Saturday. And speaking of, I know the Moose are doing a Francophone night. It is the Soirée Francophone at Blue Cross Park tomorrow night as the Fish come back to start another homestand. Goldeyes.com for all of that. We're going to get into some fantasy talk in just a minute. But as you well know, we were supposed to be at Breezy Bend today. Mother Nature had other ideas. Craig and his ground staff are working overtime today and crossing their fingers we don't get any more rain tonight to get the course ready for 7:30 a.m. tomorrow, which will be tee off of round one. Now, I don't believe the tee times have changed. I know Eric Comrie and Braxton Kuntz are going to be going off tomorrow. 2:40 is their scheduled time. And we will be live at Breezy tomorrow with the latest from the Manitoba Open as they clean up after the big storm last night and look to get the tournament back on track. It will now be a 54-hole tournament after losing the first 18 holes today. And hey, if you're thinking about Breezy Bend for next season, you can go online and find out more, breezybend.ca. And of course, manitobaopen.com for all the information you need to know about the tournament this weekend. Saturday is Family Fun Day. Bring the kids. Kids under 18 are free. And between 12 and 4, free hot dog, drink, and chips for all kids on the grounds coming up this Saturday at the moment. All right. We are going to talk a little fantasy football coming up with our pal Tom Tipple from fantasypoints.com. I should mention Assiniboia Downs, though. I finally got Remis. Turn your mic on for a minute. How did you do last night? Did you hit any winners?
Yeah, I had one winner. $4 win bet on Damn the Torpedoes. Told you, Tom Petty for the win. I won like $20 on my $4 bet. So I ended up even for the day, but I didn't lose. So did I do better than you?
You did not.
Oh, what did you get?
You did not. My exacta. Lab Rat and Falsely Accused came through. Lab Rat won. And Lab Rat, like Falsely Accused, was a pretty short favorite, but Lab Rat was the win. So I won $24 on that exacta.
Nicely done.
So I was up a little bit. You didn't gain any more ground on me. I do want to mention Assiniboia Downs, though, because next week we got 3 nights of live racing. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at the Downs. So you can start planning for next week. Give them a call if you want a spot in the dining room. Take on that incredible prime rib buffet and make a night of it. But, of course, 7:30 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Free admission, free parking. Nothing like a summer Manitoba night at the Downs. All right. We were hoping to do this yesterday, but due to a number of things that were issues for us, we put it off to today, but I know so many of you are getting ready. These next couple of weeks are heavy draft weeks. And listen, I'm a fantasy nerd. Many of you guys are. And when we need fantasy or betting advice, we're leaning on our friends at Fantasy Points. I have just loved getting into this site with the Fantasy Points data suite. This is the best research tool in the world. And if you are thinking about it, Go to WST. You can use the code WST10 to sign up for a discount and dominate your league. Let's welcome in Thomas Tipple from fantasypoints.com back to WST. What's going on, Tom? How are you?
Happy to be back.
Yeah, I mean, sorry about yesterday. We were dealing with a whole bunch of things, but it's very hard to do a live streamed show without internet. I won't even get to the ridiculous situation. Who was the culprit for what Deep Six does for the first hour of the show? But I will tell you, it was ridiculous. And it certainly wasn't anyone at Breezy Bend or with the PGA that was the reason for it. But it's great to have you back. I do want to get to a couple of the other future bets that we talked about.
Sure.
But first off, from a fantasy perspective, there's been a few bits of news this week. And number one, maybe one of the saddest quarterback battles we've seen in recent NFL history was settled out in Indianapolis. And Danny Dimes, the former Giants and Vikings quarterback Daniel Jones, has been anointed QB1 for the Indianapolis Colts ahead of Anthony Richardson, who had been a very sexy pick the last couple of years, a former 4th overall draft pick. What do you make of Daniel Jones becoming the starter? And for guys like Jonathan Taylor, the rookie Tyler Warren, Michael Pittman, who had a miserable year last year without really much quarterback play, tell us about the Colts position players and where they're settling in. Because I have a feeling just with that team and the quarterback situation, people will be really down on those guys. I do wonder if there's value in Indy, or should we just run away now that Danny Dimes is the starting quarterback?
So I might blow your mind here. For people that don't know, we do 2 Dynasty Points podcasts. There's the one on Tuesday nights that's live that gets released Wednesday, and then we have the Dynasty Points Market Report. We have been a sell Anthony Richardson when he creeped up into the first round of Superflex Dynasty drafts. There was just, in my opinion, no way he maintained that value. And I have to tell you, you should be back in on the Indianapolis Colts position players with this news. You should not be running away. We are actually more excited now that Anthony Richardson is just not the starter. And I can give you a couple reasons why. I understand that Daniel Jones is not the sexy pick for who we want to be our franchise's quarterback. I totally understand that. But check this out. Last year, Anthony Richardson had the worst completion percentage and the fewest completion percentages per game of any quarterback since 2011. That other quarterback, Tim Tebow, and that's with a minimum of 10 starts. The advanced data tells a similar story. This is coming from Scott Barrett and the Fantasy Points data suite. He had the worst catchable throw rate in Fantasy Points data history with a minimum of 225 passes executed. You want to hear some of these? Number 1, the worst, Anthony Richardson with a 60.3. You got Caleb Williams with 63.7. Zach Wilson in 2021 with a 66.3. And like I mentioned last week, Huss, 66.5%, 4th worst, Justin Fields, which, if you've seen anything from training camp, I sent a quote tweet, let everybody know. We just talked about Justin Fields' inability to throw the football. It pops up in our advanced data, but that's not where it ends. If you want to talk about an insane difference in what we deem catchable targets, now a catchable target, understand a receiver gets a target. Not all targets are created equal. Some receivers bail their quarterbacks out because they make insane plays. Like you mentioned, Michael Pittman Jr., who was playing with a really messed up back. He should not have been playing through a lot of the season last year, but he is a gamer. Daniel Jones with the Giants had 26 catchable targets per game in 2024. That's 10th. Colts Anthony Richardson was dead last, 16% fewer than the next closest team. Anthony Richardson and the Colts in general last year had a 16.5 catchable targets per game rate. And you might be asking, what is this nerd talking about? Why is this going to help us out? Well, highest targeted per route on horizontal breaking routes last season. That's a big deal for fantasy. We want those routes. Josh Downs had a 41%. it is highly likely that somebody like Josh Downs with his ADP, and even Pittman Jr., because Josh Downs is like the hot button guy at fantasypoints.com, absolutely smashes his ADP. If Daniel Jones keeps this job and Anthony Richardson never sees the field again in Indy, I'm here to tell you that Josh Downs can not only finish as a low-end wide receiver 2, he could potentially be sitting at low-end wide receiver 1.
Wow. Listen, I am here for this conversation. I think Jonathan Taylor's pretty solid. I mean, he'll be a decent RB1, RB2, be productive as soon as he plays. But the guy I'm most interested in is this Tyler Warren. And I will preface this by telling you I have a full man crush on this guy. I watched a couple Penn State games and then the bowl game, and as a Chiefs fan, I was dreaming of the Chiefs somehow finding a way to trade up and get this guy to kind of be the successor to Travis Kelce. Very happy they got Josh Simmons, though. We needed a tackle a lot more than a tight end. But are you buying or selling Warren right now as an impact fantasy player in his rookie year, even if we're just talking about redraft leagues?
So historically speaking, rookie tight ends do not have that kind of impact. We have been kind of spoiled over the last couple of years, which kind of skews that data, where we have obviously Brock Bowers last year came in and did his
monster
thing. We had the year before that when we had guys like Sam Laporta coming in, and Kincaid was not bad either. Do not get me wrong. It is very hard for a tight end to be that impact player. However, the Steichen offense, that position matters. Remember when I talked about the horizontal breaking routes? That is another part of the field where Daniel Jones has had a history of being able to hit. We're talking about a guy who propped up Wan'Dale Wario Robinson in New York in his time to quite possibly one of the worst 100, I believe it was 100 catch season where it was under 1,000 yards. Daniel Jones is really good at hitting those short to intermediate horizontal breaking routes, and Warren is a freak athlete. The problem that I end up having with someone like Warren is if you follow any work from our guy Max Toscano, who is friend of the Dynasty Points podcast, tight end connoisseur, it's blocking. Blocking matters so much for a tight end. And for him to keep guys like Morreale Cox off the field, he's going to have to show that he can block really well. I think he can, but it is a big learning curve. In terms of learning curves for NFL positions, the tight end spot has one of the hardest learning curves in football. In my opinion, it's quarterback, center, tackle, tight end in terms of the offense. It is a difficult position to learn, but Steichen uses tight ends really well. They have not had a number one guy. They've always had a trio of bums, in my opinion, in terms of who they've been rolling out every single Kylan Granson and Morreale Cox, and you name it. If they were terrible, the Colts were rolling them out. But this is a team, I think, that wants to be in 12 personnel quite a bit, and I think Warren can also still stay on the field in 11. And I like him. He's someone I'm fading at cost, just simply because there are other guys in those in the 5th and the 6th round for how I build my teams. I'm stacking the late round tight ends like Evan Ingram and David Njoku, especially with the Joe Flacco news that he's the week 1 starter. I have a hard time making that click in redraft formats, but in dynasty formats, he should be scooped up everywhere, especially in tight end premium. I think your love for him is going to pay off. I have a hard time seeing it pay off in 2025.
Thomas Tipple with us from fantasypoints.com, getting ready for a couple of big drafting weeks ahead. While we're talking rookies, I wanted to bring up Tampa Bay rookie wide receiver Emeka Mbuka. Everywhere I turn right now as training camp continues, there is more hype about this guy. Full disclosure, I do have one kind of dynasty league where we do a rookie draft much earlier in the summer. And I had, I don't know, it was either the 6th or 7th pick. And it came down to Mbuka or Tyler Warren or Loveland. And I said I had a crush on this guy. I just really wanted to get him, so I picked Warren. But we had spoke last week about a concept where if someone, I guess the question from a listener was, I've been offered Garrett Wilson. How low would that pick be where you would consider doing it? We were talking about the 5 pick in Travion Henderson. I've seen a lot of lists that have those top 5, and then Mbuka is the 6th guy. How have things changed? And just thoughts on Mbuka as a pick in both dynasty formats as well as redraft leagues, knowing that Chris Godwin probably isn't going to be good to go until at least mid-October.
So I'm pumping the brakes on the entire Tampa Bay offense outside of somebody like Bucky Irving. And we had Rich Rebar on the show this week. You can go catch that Dynasty Points podcast episode if you want a full breakdown of where somebody like Rich Rebar is on the Bucks. I'll tell you this. Chris Godwin is not starting the year on the PUP. He will be activated to the main roster from the reports that came out. I believe it was just today.
Yeah, this morning. Yeah, he'll be on the 53.
Correct. To ramp him up to get ready. I do not think he is as far off as some might think, but that's not where my Mbuka for 2025 pauses. Last season, we had 2 of the best rookie wide receiver seasons ever in Brian Thomas Jr. and Ladd McConkey. These 2 guys absolutely broke out and shattered the perception of what a rookie wide receiver can do. Mbuka is a really good prospect, but to me, he is not either one of them. For a rookie wide receiver to make the kind of impact Mbuka is being talked about, he would have to outperform Mike Evans and Chris Godwin pretty much entirely. So for Dynasty, I love him. I think he was always going to be a really good pick. This McMillan neck injury really helps clear a path, although it's very unfortunate. But in terms of a point per game situation, you're going to need Mbuka in redraft to pay off at a over 14 point per game projection, and that is really hard for a rookie wide receiver to pull off. And I don't know if I see that in that offense. Keep in mind, I also believe Baker Mayfield will come back down to earth a little bit. We're talking about a guy who had never hit 30 passing touchdowns in a season. Obviously, last year he shattered that. He's one of the more turnover-prone worthy quarterbacks in the league. That definitely matters. Tristan Wirfs, their left tackle, not totally being healthy to kick the year off, and we don't know if that injury is going to be a nagging injury or not. That can hinder the offense, and we're looking at a 3rd year in a row where he's lost his offensive coordinator. Now, it has been amazing that Baker has been able to do what he has been able to do, but at some point, I have to believe that this magic tier, this Linsanity run for Baker Mayfield over the last 2 seasons, I'm putting my eggs in the it's time to kind of fade it a little bit. In his initial breakout season, we can back this a little bit with Fantasy Points data. In his breakout year 2 years ago, if you remember, when he got to Tampa Bay, he absolutely smashed with, I believe it was Dave Canales, but his fantasy points per opportunity was only 0.43. That was 21st for quarterbacks that had played more than 5 games and had over 100 dropbacks. And his data last year in the same statistic jumped all the way up to a 0.57 fantasy points per opportunity. That is rushing attempts and passing attempts. That was good for 4th in the league, just behind Lamar, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts. The likelihood of somebody that does not have massive rushing upside, which we talked about previously, I believe last week for a little bit, maintaining this level of production is almost unheard of. So I believe the Bucks are one of my favorite offenses due for some regression. And at his price in redraft, as it keeps skyrocketing with news and injuries and positive drum beats, I just find it really hard to find Mbuka cashing in as ADP in redraft. In Dynasty, you should be all in. But in redraft, man, I have a hard time.
Love it, love it. Thomas Tipple is with us from fantasypoints.com. All year long, you'll be able to get the best in fantasy, weekly information, analysis, and more at the site. But there's also a betting angle to it. And last week, we talked about some NFL futures that are on the board right now. I'll be getting together with the Cool Bet guys next week. Pat and Jake are back. We were planning on doing this, by the way, on Friday. We're going to bang out 2 episodes next week, which will sort of tee off our Friday morning pick shows, weekly 10 a.m. here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But last week, we talked about Justin Fields and how there's some real value on his over rushing yards. Thomas, I know you've got a few other futures in the chamber that you've already fired on. Fill us in on what else on the board is looking attractive right now before we get to NFL kickoff for season-long wagers.
Absolutely. I teased everybody. I said we had 5, but we got so deep into our conversation with Garrett Wilson, we could not get to the other 4. So guess what? I didn't delete them because I've definitely got my money planted on these. We've got Jameson Williams over on the receiving yards. That's a Detroit Lions wide receiver. The line is 875.5 at -110. Look, this is the type of player. He's a big play machine that everyone in the fantasy community really believes is due for a massive breakout. There's nothing but positive drum beats coming out of camp over and over and over again. This is again projected to be one of the upper tier offenses in football. This is somebody that averaged 67.7 yards per game and 11.12 yards per target. All Jameson Williams has to do is not be worse than he was last year in this role, and he smashes this 875.5. I'm buying in on this completely. I have my money put down on that. I also have, in terms of wide receiver receiving yards, Calvin Ridley's receiving yards in 2025. It's at 900.5. That's -115. Ridley balled out towards the end of last year, even with the Titans rolling out 2 of the worst quarterbacks in the league, Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, who had a 21.9 and 18% off-target throw rate. That's really, really bad. Ridley has put up 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons with poor quarterback play. Remember, he did it in Jacksonville. Then he comes in to Tennessee and does it again. He was a league-wrecking type wide receiver, especially in your fantasy playoffs and helping you get to your fantasy playoffs. He's an absolutely smash pick in every format, but there's 900.5. If Cam Ward is actually worthy of the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, I have to believe he's going to find his best receiver on the field, and that is so far and away Calvin Ridley. I love A.O. Manor, but he's not that type of receiver for me yet. We also have Dak Prescott's passing yards in 2025 at 3,874.5. This is aggressively low, and it is set at, again, 110. This really just comes down to how bad the Cowboys' run game is projected to be. Truly awful. We have the ghost of Javonte Williams back there. We have rookie Jaden Blue, and we have Miles Slime Sanders, who hasn't been relevant for a couple of seasons now. When Dak Prescott is healthy, and as the last 3 seasons he's been healthy, he has not ever gone below the 4,000 yards threshold. Even in his injured seasons, he was on pace. And since 2019, every season he's been healthy again, he's been either on pace or has completed 4,000 yards passing. This line just under 3,900 yards would be his lowest projected finish since 2018, when he finished with only 3,885. This is an easy smash to me. Dak Prescott healthy is one of the best throwers of the football in the league, regardless if you do or do not like the Cowboys. Facts are just the facts, and fantasy points data will help back this up. But I couldn't leave it at just that. If Dak Prescott is going to throw that much, well, why not have CeeDee Lamb plus 1,200 to pair with this to lead the league in receiving? This one is just about how good CeeDee Lamb is. There's a lot of things I talked about with Dak that really matters with CeeDee Lamb, but it's not that hard to imagine CeeDee Lamb putting up 1,500 plus yards again. And I would also add CeeDee Lamb's over of 1,200.5 yards on the season. You can triple bet Dak's season long, CeeDee Lamb's season long, and the lead the league in receiving. The last time Dak was truly healthy, Lamb received for over 1,700 yards. He was even electric last year with poor quarterback play and being consistently banged up. He's an amazing player, and having this kind of opportunity with a terrible defense. We don't know what's going on with Micah Parsons. This team is going to be bad and that is a plus for fantasy production. I have a hard time seeing somebody like Dak and CeeDee Lamb not hit these overs. So once again, that's Jameson Williams over his season-long receiving yards at 875.5. Calvin Ridley's at 900.5. Dak Prescott's passing yardage at 3874.5. And CeeDee Lamb to lead the league in receiving yards, and CeeDee Lamb's over of 1200.5 on the season.
I will mention to you folks, knowing that there's a lot of cool bettors with us, just going through while we were talking about this, the Dak number at CoolBet's even better. It's 3,800.
Yeah.
And at minus 110. So you can jump on those overs. And even like this, you Cowboy fans, this will give you something to cheer for because it's not going to be a Super Bowl this year. So just individual passing performances in 45, 42 games when that defense struggles without Micah Parsons. I honestly do. You know, it's a funny just fantasy question, but also football question. Like, Thomas, I mean, you look at the splits from the Cowboys' defensive effectiveness when Micah Parsons is in as opposed to when he's out, and they literally go from a top 2 defense to bottom 5 in the league. If Micah Parsons is actually dealt, I still personally don't believe it will happen, but if that divorce that Adam Schefter was reporting they're moving towards actually happens, this could be the greatest thing that could possibly happen to fantasy fortunes of Dallas Cowboys offensive players.
That's right. And I know there's a lot of talk about George Pickens, and George Pickens might limit the upside of CeeDee Lamb. I don't think that it is possible to limit the upside of CeeDee Lamb. They do two very different things on the football field. And I'm sorry, I have to be the guy that can't trust someone like George Pickens. He is a elbow drop to a fan away mid-play from not being in the league anymore. The Pittsburgh Steelers, when they say, we're done with you at wide receiver, trust what they're telling you. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers have ever missed, except for, I don't even know, to be honest with you, a receiver that they have let go that has had a history of off-field and even on-field issues. They've let them all go, and it has never not worked out for them. Even Deontay Johnson, we've had George Pickens, Antonio Brown. We've seen what happened with him. Receivers look really good on the Steelers, but the second they leave the franchise, it is off the rails. Pickens has a chance to recover his career and have a smash season, but he's more in that deep Brandon Cooks kind of role to me than he is with an opportunity to take away that much from CeeDee Lamb. If anything, George Pickens needs to worry about Jake Ferguson, not CeeDee Lamb needing to worry about George Pickens.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if anything, his ability to stretch the field just will keep defenses a little more honest and probably give CeeDee Lamb an extra little bit of room to make some big plays. So I'm with you on all of this. Folks, as we mentioned, I mean, I've been diving into this fantasy point site. It is so good. Check it out. If you haven't used it before or you want to get in, use that promo code WST10. We've also got 5 season-long subscriptions that we're going to be giving away over the course of the next couple weeks. Remis has set up the contest right now. If you go to winnipegsportstalk.com/contest, get your entries in and stay tuned to Winnipeg Sports Talk over the next couple of weeks. And every couple of days, we'll be giving away a subscription for the season, which will be worth its weight in gold and even more when you can gloat over all of your buddies when you pound them in your league this year. So again, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. Click on it, enter. Good luck to all of you. Tom, man, I love these conversations with you. I get even more excited. Got a big week of drafting next week. Just quickly on your way out, fill people in on what's waiting for them over at the site and, of course, on the pod that you guys are doing as well.
Right. I would love to. And look, you can always hit my DMs if you have any questions or concerns. I am around all the time. That goes for pretty much everybody. Look, I'm blessed to be able to do this for a living, so I love giving back whenever I can. I'm not someone that shuts the door to my DMs for people looking for advice. You can find me at L Nostradamus on pretty much every single social media site out there. But on the website, we are loading up. We have Scott Barrett's Exodia article that dropped. when in terms of podcasts, Matthew Berry of My Fantasy Life, you've probably seen him all over the place. He just recently on Jimmy Fallon. He stopped by the School of Scott podcast. Dynasty Points alone has had guests like Rich Rebar and Pat Dougherty of just unbelievable guests, and absolutely stunning run of information. We've had guys like Adam Kaplan on with the guru, John Hansen, here at the Fantasy Points podcast alone. Just this week, you get everything from NFL best bets to the NFL first read. You have former scouts of over a decade of the Cleveland Browns writing up articles to help you with your offensive line management and really learning the ins and outs of the game. We quite literally have everything. You're not going to want to miss it. Of course, if you want to know what we're talking about, I'm set to record as soon as I leave here the Dynasty Points Market Report podcast, which will either drop a little bit later this evening or tomorrow morning. If you need your player value fixes, you better believe we're talking about your boy Emeka when we're hopping on that podcast. He's on the show sheet. We'll tell you what he's going for in Dynasty today, like we do every single week over there. Draft tips, advice, and don't forget, in season, it's snack time. And we do not leave that out on Dynasty Points Market Report either. If you want recipes and different snacks and such, we will be hammering those out every single week, especially when it comes to my guys for Millbank Cheese and Butter. I got to tell you, I have got the recipes for dips like you would not believe. You're going to want to be locked in all season with Fantasy Points.
Dude, I'm so down on this, and we can get to some of that on our program when you join us as well. And I had to laugh the minute you said snack time. The cat in the corner immediately perked up and looked like was ready for a little bit of business. So
she knows.
Hey, listen, draft time really gets crazy next week. I know I think for a lot of people, let's make a point of getting you back on, and we'll kind of lean on maybe some more basic strategy. I mean, the great thing about fantasy is new people get involved every year. So we'll kind of focus on some redraft, basic draft strategies for people that are newer, and then obviously dive into more of the latest coming out of training camps, and the latest news can hopefully help you make the most of your draft night in the league coming up. Again, the site, fantasypoints.com, and make sure to give Thomas a follow on X and everywhere else at El Nostra Thomas. Tom, have a great one, man. Enjoy. Good luck with the latest pod. I'll be looking forward to listening to it, and I'll be looking forward to having you next week here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
We'll miss it. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Appreciate it. There's Thomas Tipple from fantasypoints.com. Oh, my God, these conversations get me so fired up. Next week, the next 2 weeks, two of my favorite weeks of the year. We're still in summer. And all our leagues are making it happen. And I do have to figure out whether I took a lot of heat yesterday from some of our league members by the fact that my team coincidentally did win the marble race. I think, as we all know, marbles are random. I had a 1 in 12 chance. I got it. I'm not really that happy about it because I'm not sure I can stomach drafting Jamar Chase, who seems to be the number one pick, the consensus number one guy, being that he's a big-time Chiefs hater, a big rival of my Chiefs. I don't know whether I want to be cheering for him this year. I guess there are some pretty nice other options, though, if you want to go somewhere else. Big Justin Jefferson guy, could go that way. Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, all options, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I got to make a decision in the next few days. But thanks again to Thomas Tipple. We'll have him on throughout the year. And again, if you are a fantasy player, I want to take advantage of one of our 5 Fantasy Points memberships to give away. Enter today, right now, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. And we'll give away our first one coming up early next week after the weekend. All right, let's bring Michael Remis back in. Remo, great addition to the WST team with Thomas. I mean, this is a time where, listen, we've got a little bit more time to talk about things like this without a lot of hockey news or anything. And I'll tell you what, I feel smarter every time we have Thomas on as we get ready for what is very important to a lot of football fans, their teams.
Yeah, very awesome to have Thomas getting into the numbers there. I know people enjoying his background as well. And I'm not sure if you got into it last week. Thomas living here in Winnipeg, working for Fantasy Points. So I'm not sure How many?
And they're big time, man. They are big time. I mean, I listen to a lot of stuff around the space. This is a site that is always cited and quoted. And man, talk about some of their guests, including Matthew Barry, one of the biggest names and OGs in fantasy discourse. So highly recommend you check that out. By the way, just quickly, we'll get to the cool bet lines in just a minute. Let's get to a little fan feedback. Brought to you by our friends at fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market with no added fees. What you see on the site is exactly what you pay and no more. And don't forget, Winnipeg Blue Bomber tickets are now on fansfirst.ca. So if you've got a couple extra tickets for the Banjo Bowl, they're in high demand. That's where you'll sell them. If you're desperately looking for some, you can get hooked up there because the game is sold out. As every Bomber game this year has been. So fansfirst.ca is where you're going to want to look to that. A lot of talk. People are fired up about this, about the upcoming season. Waiters. Listen, I'm buying this take from Waiters. Time for Bryce Young to make a name this season. I think Bryce Young is going to be a very fantasy relevant player, and I think the Carolina Panthers are going to continue some forward progress. Wouldn't be surprised if they could maybe get on the other side of 5-1. Big fan of their coach, Dave Canales, as well. Kabilis and Waiters. Okay, we've got another one. George Pickens and CD Lamb will be good. And Kabilis is there. I would bet that. Dak and CD. I'm certainly not buying Cowboys defense, but I'll buy that Cowboys offense, especially if this Micah Parsons continues rolling on. And then a lot of you guys are just talking about Josh Allen's girlfriend, or I guess now wife, Haley Steinfeld, yeah. Steinfeld for sure. I mean, I guess she's, basically would that be like a Temu Taylor Swift? I mean, somewhat popular, but not quite in the realm of the most popular pop star in the world? Or is she an actress?
She is an actress and singer. Hey, she got nominated for an Academy Award. She was in Pitch Perfect. Here, she was in the voice of Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, Taylor Swift, she's like on such a high.
The bar is set pretty high.
The bar's pretty high. So, Haley Steinfeld, no slouch. But maybe she's just not shown at all the games. I'm not sure. Like Taylor Swift, she's wearing Chiefs red. I guess she's such a big star. They feel like they have to show her. Haley Steinfeld's got quite a career, but there's only one T Swift.
That's true. And you know what? There's a lot of talk coming out of the New Heights podcast that this is going to be the year that Taylor does the Super Bowl halftime show. And for those of you that are familiar with the Swiftiverse, Taylor is famous for putting all these little cute clues and Easter eggs into everything she does for her fans. And for whatever reason, she kept on talking on the podcast about making sourdough bread, which seemed like a bit of an obscure thing to be talking about. Well, you know where the Super Bowl is this year, Remis?
I do not. Where is it?
It's in San Francisco.
Okay.
Do you know what the mascot's name of the San Francisco 49ers is?
They have a mascot?
Sourdough Sam.
No.
Yeah, and sourdough, I guess, is, somehow uniquely tied to that Northern California area. So there's plenty of speculation that it's time for Taylor. And of course, with the new album coming out, it would sort of make sense. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I hope Travis is there regardless of whether she is performing to work that day. But that would be huge for the NFL if she does it. Fan feedback, as always, brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today over at fansfirst.ca. Yes, Huss connecting the dots. Another Easter egg from Swift. Hey, once you get in with the Swifties, you learn a lot about what goes on, and there's no fan base that is as passionate and as devoted to finding out everything they can about their idol. And that was 2 hours of her laid back with Travis talking about it. So there are a myriad of theories out there. This one, well, just remember this conversation on WST for those of you that are with us right now. T-Swift, Super Bowl, San Francisco, coming up this year. We'll see whether it happens. All right, let's get over to the cool bet lines. Tonight, CFL, Winnipeg, Montreal. Wow, this line is up to 6.5, and it's minus 118. I will say that's too much for me to bet the Bombers on the spread. I expect the Bombers to win. The money line is now up to minus 323. I'll be honest, I'm just not sure I trust them to cover that number. I mean, they didn't cover last week against Ottawa when they certainly should have. And the one time they did cover in recent weeks was the game, well, I guess they covered against Calgary because they were an underdog and they lost by 1. But it was that crazy Toronto game where they only scored 1 offensive touchdown, gave up 31, and still covered a 6.5 point number. I like the under in this game. Under 48.5, as we talked about. I think we're going to really lean on the Bomber defense. I'm liking Brady Oliveira today. You know, earlier today, I got on his rush yards at over 65.5. It's now 71.5. Don't like that as much as I do 65, but I'm riding with Brady tonight. I did put together, now the full disclosure, I've told you, I like the under. I like the over on Brady Oliveira. The Zach Collaros passing number is at 270.5. I like the under on that. I think Zach probably ends up in the 250 range, and my play is Zach under, Brady over, Bombers to win, and under for the total. Now, I did send in details on a Bomber parlay, and I think there was something lost in translation. It's actually the Bomber special. It's up in the combo cards, Reem.
Oh, okay. I went for the Chiefs or Bills. That's the WST parlay here. Chiefs or Bills to win the Super Bowl.
That's the AFC, your AFC Super Bowl bet. Chiefs or Bills to win the Super Bowl. As I said to Pat, a Bills fan, that's for Bills fans who want to bet their team to win the Super Bowl but still know the script. So you can get both of those. But listen, this is the Bombers. And unfortunately, it's on the opposite side of a couple of my picks. So if you want to do that, this is basically saying that we're going to have a bit of a shootout in this game. Bombers to win over 48.5. Zach Collaros over 270 passing. And Brady Oliveira over 71.5 rushing. Now, it's got a nice boost. It's up to plus 933. I did blindly bet it thinking that the other ones were gone. Now we're just riding and just hoping for a massive offensive performance, which would be great for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But the combo right now, it's got a nice boost, but this is it. If you're really all in on the Bombers offense tonight, roll with this one. Bombers to win over 48.5, Zach over 270.5 passing, and Brady 71.5. And tell you what, we catch this one. Be a lot of happy Bomber fans in the WST chat tomorrow. We do have our Week 12 CFL 110 parlay that's boosted from plus 460 to plus 545. We're not touching this game tonight. We've got the Elks to win, BC minus 3.5 over Toronto, and the Riders to win over Calgary. That's also up in the combo cards right at the top of coolbet.com. What do we have for tonight? We do have a Thursday night Super Boost. Bombers to win. And the Six Nation Chiefs to beat the Peterborough Lakers in lacrosse. Patty's a huge lacrosse guy, so I'm sure he put that one in. That one's boosted from minus 196 to minus 104. And how about this one, Reem? The Win City Special. Let's get on this one. Bombers to win. Sea Bears plus 5.5 tomorrow against Calgary. So if we can get this one and get a Bomber win, we'll be looking at it's boosted to plus 166. A nice little cushion for the Sea Bears tomorrow. I think they can win that game tomorrow, the Sea Bears. But either way, we'll have a nice little cushion of plus 5.5. So that's all up there right now. You want the house callers tonight? Anytime touchdown for Strevler. Anytime touchdown for Brady Oliveira. Anytime touchdown for Tyler Sneed. That's just about 10 to 1, boosted to plus 983. All of that's in there. And I guess I'll say this one more time because tonight we will cut it off. But if you haven't already and you're playing at CoolBet and you want to come with us to the Labor Day Classic, CoolBet always got the best trips and promos. They've given us to do one more. So tonight, you send that, if you're doing a bet at CoolBet, just send us a screen cap of any bet, any sport, $10 or more, with your CoolBet user ID and your contact info for us to get at you if you win. You screen cap that and send it to contest@winnipegsportstalk.com. And tomorrow at the end of the program, we're going to do our regular marble race. And then anyone that's entered with the $10 bet at CoolBet or more, we will put them in. And the winner of that marble race is going to be coming with us on the Huss Bus and the 1930 crew to Labor Day in Regina the following weekend. So make sure to tune in tomorrow if you've already entered. If you haven't played a CoolBet, use the promo code WST on your first deposit. You get a 100% bonus up to $200. Throw $10 on the Bombers tonight or Brady Oliveira or Zach Collaros. Send it in, and maybe, just maybe, you'll have a free trip for two to Labor Day. Two of you in a room, transport from Winnipeg to Regina and back, transport from the downtown hotel to the game and back, all the parties in between. Going to be a great time. And I do think we've got 2 or 4 seats left that are still there right now. I think it's 2. But if you've been humming and hawing and still think, man, I can't believe I got to be there for the Labor Day Classic, especially with such a fun crew, the1930crew.com or at the1930crew on Instagram or X. Hit them up, lock it in, and we'll see you next week. Remo, before we go, what's your call on this game tonight? Give me a prediction.
I think the Bombers are going to win. Let's go like 23-18 Bombers.
Come on. That is literally exactly what I was about to say.
Really?
23-18. Well done. I'm kind of hoping it's a bigger number now just because we've moved the under to the over for a parlay. But that was my initial prediction. 23-18. A grinder of a game that Paul Maurice would appreciate. Just a grinder out there. Lots of Brady Oliveira. Game is starting at 6, so actually it's a good reason for us to break right now. We've gone long. We'll get this podcast up for people to check out before the game. And then tomorrow, we're back at Breezy Bend. Better late than never for round 1 of the Manitoba Open. Eric Comrie teeing off. Braxton Kuntz making his professional debut at his home course. Stars of PGA Tour Americas. If you're planning on getting out to the course, pop by and say hi. And it should be a really, really fun day and fun weekend for us. So, by the way, Remis, you'll love this. I've got an update on Ken Wiebe.
At the Tamarack?
At the Tamarack.
He's talking to his ball?
He's talking to his ball, and he's texted to me. He shot 42 on the front despite a triple on 2 and 19 putts. He is 2 up through 9. LFG. So that is live. That is live from Ken Wiebe at the Tamarack right now. If you look it up, I do believe it's live scoring. So our boy Kenny playing well. I'm hoping Kenny can. If he can have a nice run through this match play, it'll be the most fun Ken hit of the year because we will not be able to wipe that smile off of his face. So good luck to Ken. Maybe a few less putts, and just keep winning those holes. You got a two hole lead with 9 to go, Ken. This is your time to close it down. Folks, enjoy the game tonight. And a big shout out to everyone working on the golf course out at Breezy Bend to get things ready for play tomorrow. Let's just hope that all the rain came through last night in that area. And we'll have a great day and a great weekend ahead of golf at Breezy Bend for the Manitoba Open. That's where we'll be tomorrow for Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll have a lot going on tomorrow on the program. Mike McIntyre will join us live from Breezy. We're also going to talk about tonight's game with John Hodge. We'll get ready for the Seabears and the CEBL Championship weekend tomorrow. Seabears at 7:30. and everything else heading into the weekend. And, of course, do our special marble race for the Labor Day Classic trip with our friends at Coolbet. That's going to do it for us. Thanks again to all of our sponsors. Thanks to Moe Khan. Thanks to Hammer. Thanks to the Fink, Daniel Fink from the Manitoba Moose, and, of course, Tom Tipple from fantasypoints.com. And thanks to all of you for hanging out with us today. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll see you tomorrow live at 1 from Breezy Bend in the Manitoba Open right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.